7. Be right.
Right on the number.
8:17.
All right.
7:30.
Okay, Dean, I think we're ready now, buddy. We on? Good evening and welcome to the Timberlane Regional School Board meeting of Thursday, October 5th, 2017. I will call the meeting to order at 7:30. Mrs. Belcher, roll call, please.
Peter Bielo.
Here.
Brian Boyle.
Here.
Stephanie Juby. Ken Farah.
Here.
Donna Green. Dan Guide. Sue Sherman.
Here.
Greg Spiro.
Here.
Kelly Ward. Seated at the board table this evening are the Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Earl Metzler, and Student Representative Brian Lavoie. The presence of other district administrators as well as the Timberlane Teachers Association officers will be reflected in the meeting minutes.
Ms. Lavoie, pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Lavoie, you get to lead off on our meeting here. Give us an update what's going on in the student world here.
Awesome. So this past couple weeks, on September 26th, we had the senior parent night at the high school. It was basically for senior parents to come in, get a little bit more information on the whole college application process. They met with a lot of guidance counselors and such, and discussed the common application and scholarships and things that Timberlane does to help the seniors work with their way towards college. The 28th of September, there was the 7th and 8th grade open house, which went very well, as I've been told from certain people. There was also the parent-teacher conference up at the high school. The sign-up is available now. It's happening on October 12th. So, parents can go online, sign up to meet with some teachers of their students. And also, education-wise, the PSATs are going to be taking place on October 14th, which is a Saturday, at the high school. This is for juniors and sophomores who feel the need to, or want to go and enhance their knowledge and take the PSAT, practice for the SAT. I think it's a $23 charge, but they get to take the PSAT and prepare for that SAT coming up their junior year. There was also, in the music world, jazz and classical all-state auditions are coming around soon. It's October 21st and then November 18th, so students go down to other high schools, audition for that all-state program, which I know a lot of people know about, and that's a very popular thing amongst the music program. As well as October 14th is also the PSAT. It's also the Dover Band Show, so the band members can go and perform at the Dover Band Show, which is always a big hit for us. We do pretty well in general. Also, there was the 24-hour play project. The first one of the year happened September 29th and 30th. Playwrights went to the high school, went to the PAC Performing Arts Center, and wrote a show, and that was performed later that night, 7 p.m. on Saturday, which I was actually a part of. I wrote for that, which was really, really fun. And then also this week is the Play for the Cure week for the sports teams at the high school, which is basically all this week. Different sports teams are promoting cancer awareness. A lot of them were, pink socks, pink little ribbons, things like that. Some of the fields are even getting pink ribbons on it. So it's, supporting cancer awareness up at the high school and as well. And that is about it.
Very nicely done. Very, very thorough report there. Thank you. We'll go right into, there is nothing on here for delegates and individuals, from what I can see. First order of current business, elementary action plans.
Welcome our elementary principals.
We have, yes, looks like we have a full squad here, the full team of our elementary principals.
And two assistant principals that are here to support presentation. And this is an executive summary, and then an opportunity to ask some questions as we discussed.
Okay.
Hi, thanks for having us tonight. I'm Joanne Jordan, principal of Sandtown North.
Kathy Deotis, principal of Atkinson Academy.
Michelle Ogier, principal at Pollard.
Nancy Barcelos, principal at Danville.
Jim Marino, principal at TLC at Sandown Central. So we're going to go over just a few slides about our elementary action plan. So last year we had a common goal. The first one was at early literacy. That covers students in grades kindergarten to first grade. And it was on early literacy, and the students were assessed using the STAR assessment. And what that looks for is letter recognition, letter sounds, and the expectation that students from the beginning of the year to the end of the year would increase by 40 points.
Our next common goal was for reading for students in grades 2 through 5. And similar to what Jen just said, all students were assessed in the areas of reading for that level. Things such as drawing inferences, summarizing texts, and description of characters and setting and things like that.
Our common math goal focused on the student growth percentile, which is maintained or achieved after two tests have been taken. And it measures, it documents the student's progress at a particular time with like student scores and measures their growth over time. And the expectation was also scoring 40 or higher in the area of math.
During the 2016-2017 school year, the administration and the staff developed more diversity awareness and cultural responsibility during our TILA sessions and during our special activities that we did with each of our schools.
Another common goal for each of us was the cleaner, greener goal. And what we all did was focus on cleaning up our school grounds, as well as planting and basically adding to curb appeal. It was a fun time. It was a chance for staff and students and community members to come together to improve the looks of our buildings. We all had fun with it. In addition, we're all involved in some sort of recycling efforts, most of which are continuing into this year as well.
And lastly, our last common goal was in overseeing the Tripod Academic Survey. And students K through 5 took this survey, and schools used the data to come up with 2 of the 7 C's that they focused on that would help us to improve our teaching and our learning based on these scores. And right in front of you here, we had to give you a little bit of personalization, a couple of pictures, one from each school, of kids in action making our schools cleaner and greener.
Some highlights of Atkinson's action plan last year was that all the grade levels achieved the growth in the literacy and math. The early literacy was set at 80%. 74 was our success rate. We had lots of school-wide assemblies featuring the Tigers that promoted bullying, didn't promote it, talked about bullying and friendship. And our TILA training was focused around that for the administrators. We also had lots of cultural activities. We had the Chinese acrobats and an African drummer group come in and perform for the children. We also, the Atkinson families came together for the cleanup in the spring. And we continue to recycle at school. The students and staff worked on 2 areas at Tripod, Captivate and classroom management. The teachers worked very hard last year to plan interesting, focused lessons and tried to foster positive classroom behavior. About 10 of us teachers not this past June, the June before, took a responsive classroom management class that was held at the academy. About 10 assistants, along with 10 from the other schools, also participated on one of the workshop days. And 10 teachers this summer also took part in the responsive classroom along with the other 2 schools. Our data shows that we need to continue to work on classroom management and strategies and to differentiate for all our learners. And we look forward again to another cleaner, greener project this fall. And during the diversity awareness, we will focus all our enrichment days on diversity awareness. We are planning to have a African drummer come in and do a 3-day residency, sponsored by our PTA for the children too. So that's it for Atkinson.
Using the responsive classroom practices, Danville teachers co-teach morning meetings to develop a deeper bond with more students, and continuing along the lines of collaboration, classroom teachers, the librarian, and our technology teacher use the design process to support inquiry through integration of curricula. Students will define a problem, brainstorm a design, they will build, they will test their structure or plan, test the design and redesign if necessary, and then write conclusions based on what they learned in the whole process. Our data shows that we need to continue to broaden teachers' experiences with instructional strategies to meet all kinds of learners, and we look forward to adopting new instructional strategies by understanding student learning styles.
I'm extremely proud of Pollard School and our goals. So we had an early literacy, a reading, and a math academic goals, and we met or exceeded all 3 of those goals. We also had all the other goals, everything was met or exceeded at Pollard. This is probably one of the most successful years that we've had. Everyone worked hard. I would have to say that, as Dr. Metzler said a minute ago, my 2 assistants who are here, Doug Blay really led the academic part of that, and Brian Shawley really led the emotional classroom management and climate part. And I think the team has really helped, and I can't thank you supporting us in that. We worked extremely hard as a staff to use our data. We use the data and the data protocol for the staff, for the district, to work on all the academic goals. We did that during our staff meetings as well as our committee meetings that we meet monthly in our staff. We also used the tripod data and realized, as Kathy mentioned earlier about responsive classroom, we needed something to help manage and be consistent in our classrooms. And so our staff truly brought that together, and Brian worked on getting some videos from Responsive Classroom, and we made our staff meetings really about teaching them the best way and tactics to work with students in the classroom. Our data has increased, but our staff would like to focus more on the classroom management this next year, and I think that'll be a great next step. We are our 2nd year as our ED program, so I think that will be helpful for everyone at Pollard. Again, I just want to thank everyone for having the support for us, so we were able to support our students.
So for Sandown Central, I met with the staff and we talked about reflections of last year because I was not there. And what they were most proud of, I wanted to share. Looking at our data, all students made gains in early literacy skills, letters, and also with numbers as well. They talked about one thing they were most proud of is that this was the 2nd year together and they were able to work and really collaborate together. So they were very proud of that they felt like they were really moving along. We also had captivating classroom they selected as the tripod areas. And how to captivate the students, how to captivate a 3, 4, and 5-year-old. You have to be pretty good at that to get their attention. So they did it through the arts, through books, puppetry, and art, which was great. And classroom management, they rolled out a PBIS, which is targeting good behavior, good modeling, and it's respect, responsibility, and safety. Also, we have, there was also a process with hallway behavior, just to get kids learning how to walk in the hallway. They were really proud about that. And there's also a lot of training going on. You'll hear about it with the pyramid model, which is behavior, assisting children with behavior issues. We also had a cleaner, greener goal, and we had one in the fall and in the spring. They looked at 2 areas of the school that they worked on, and they kind of grouped it together with diversity. So families came in and they painted rocks to show uniqueness, how every child is unique in diversity. So this year for our cleaner, greener, actually in a couple weeks, on the 21st, we're going to use that as we clean out our garden area, to use that as a border. So all the rocks will be put in the garden. So they're really excited about that. Our data does show that we need to work together and find ways to really target the students who are a little bit behind or below in benchmark, to really work with early literacy with them. And they were really excited when we said, well, what are we most excited about next year? What is our goal? and they talked about communication and team building. They want to continue working together, but also share the good things that are happening in the school. So communication is really important to them for this year.
We felt it was a great year for us as well at Sandown North. A big focus for us last year was to focus on really knowing our students as learners, but also as people. So a lot of data was collected to look at student-staff connections and ensuring that each of our children was connected to at least one significant adult in the building. We collected that data. There were places where we needed to offer some scaffolds and supports, which we did. We then also focused on the areas of challenging and captivating our students, because if they're excited, obviously, about their learning, they're going to succeed. And the leadership team had created a questionnaire called What Makes You Excited to Learn? It was one we just developed ourselves, so we could learn more about our learners. And from that information, we were able to form some interest groups at the end of the day, some small group settings for children, where they could really pursue areas of interest. We too had the Cleaner Greener Day, and I'm trying to think of where I'm going. So we met our goal in all of our academic areas, which obviously pleased us. We are planning this year to continue our work with the interest needs for our students, hoping that we can engage them further. Our unified arts teachers, our librarian, our FLES teacher are all offering some small group instruction briefly at the end of a day, but for children who would like to dig deeper into an area of learning. So that will continue. In addition, we're focusing on our professional learning communities and on the work that they're doing so that our educator teams can be that much more successful in working with our students.
So we have common goals again in the areas of literacy and math. And right now, each school is looking at their data from our benchmark that just occurred in September. And we are analyzing that data and selecting a percentage. So each of our schools might be slightly different, but it's based on each individual school's data. And we are looking at raising the bar to a student growth percentile of 50 or greater in both of the areas, or all three areas. And in the spirit of rigor and accountability, we felt that it was necessary and only right to increase the bar that we're measuring our student growth.
And lastly, we definitely still wanted a school climate and culture goal. However, we, instead of having 3 separate ones, we chose one, but underneath that climate culture goal, we still hope to include the tripod, 7 Cs data, cleaner, greener, and diversity, but also add something with building our educators' knowledge and capacity in the area of professional learning communities. So we look forward to all of these goals, and we are now complete.
Additionally,
Thank you.
Oh, do you want?
Wait a minute, one more.
Sorry. Forgot that.
additionally, we look forward to rolling out a brand-new elementary report card using Achieve 3000 to help our students with learning and continue our efforts to use our data collection for student learning also.
And now we're done.
And now we're done.
Okay. First, go ahead, Mrs. Sherman.
Thanks, ladies, that was great. Mrs. Ogier, can I speak to your slide that talks about the garden club? Can you tell me about the Pollard School Garden Club?
The Pollard School has a garden club. Kara Bloom and Sue Tozier oversee that, and they meet once a week. And these kids had a plot at the town garden in Plastow, but they also did a lot of work at Pollard. They really made our Cleaner Greener springtime pretty impressive. They helped with some of the other Girl Scouts and Cub Scouts that we had, and did the circle around the flag, as well as all the flower pots in the, not window boxes in the front of the building. So they love to garden and they get excited about it. And I'm sure we're gonna have more because they walk over once a week and it was becoming a very popular event, so definitely a fun thing.
Good. Glad the garden, the community garden worked out to
It
support.
absolutely did.
Support the school goals.
Dan?
Thank you, all of you, for all the work that you guys have put in so far. And Michelle, firsthand, I've had 4 kids go through the system, 2 are in the system right now. So, I mean, firsthand, I know things are changing, and they're changing for the better so far. As far as I can tell. Like I said, 2 of my kids have already been all the way through. 2 are in the middle of it right now, but the changes are working as far as I can see. And I like the aggressive goals of keep reaching higher.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for helping it cleaner, greener, because you were part of that.
He likes to garden too.
At Sandown North, you mentioned that you collected data on student and staff connections and try to get students to connect to a staff. I'm a little perplexed by that because I think of an elementary school where, you know, you have a first grader that there's that connection with the teacher. Can you explain what
Absolutely,
what
there
that
is.
means?
And actually, we went beyond that. We said we're going to assume that every child is connected to their classroom teacher. But we looked beyond that and said, but there are many other staff members here. And are there, when we pass in the hall, are the children, do they feel that they have connections beyond the perimeter of their classroom? So we actually put pictures of each of our students out. We all walked around and noted children that we were really connected to on maybe a different level. It might have been an interest. It might have been that we liked the same author. And, you know, we pass that child in the hall and say, you know, did you see so-and-so's published a new book? It might be gardening. And it might simply be, it's somebody I look at and smile at every day because I know he or she needs it. And we saw there were some children maybe who, probably because they were a little shyer, a little, they weren't as outgoing, didn't have as many connections. And then we said, well, let's see, how can we connect them not only to adults, but maybe to other students as well. And by the end of the year, we felt that we were a more cohesive community, not that we weren't, but it felt like we were even more closely connected.
Okay, great. Let's have 2 more questions. I'll start with the easy one. I really applaud the efforts of Cleaner Greener, which sounds like it's more focused on community and outside of the classroom. And I wonder, and let me just give you an example. I had 2 students from Japan that talked about their elementary schools and the fact that they don't have any janitors. They don't have anybody that serves out lunch. Those kids clean the school from top to bottom every day, and they serve out the lunch to their own classrooms. A couple kids go down, wheel it down. I was blown away by the responsibility that those students took for themselves and for their community within the context and confines of their school building without even going out into the greater community, which to me is what Cleaner Greener kind of does. And I know that I'm sure you all do that within your buildings, but I'm always concerned about that as students get older, that they keep that, and anybody speak to that a little bit more about how I do find that sometimes as kids get older, they may not have that sense of community or responsibility. How do you build that?
I think by
within-
building the blocks and starting in the elementary schools, and this was, Cleaner Greener was an effort district-wide, and so each of the schools participated in different ways, and so we're hoping that we're growing people who are going to be environmentally conscious and want and care about their environment, and it continues as they grow through the years. In Japan, they spend a lot more time in school during the day, though, as well. So they have time to clean.
Well, true, but it was just, I'm not
It is
saying that we're
interesting.
gonna have it, but
Sure.
I was just pretty amazed at the responsibility that the students
It's
had.
very interesting
Yeah, it was
culture.
very interesting. And now another question, and feel free not to answer this if you don't want to. Dr. Messer will probably You know, I look at the scores, the literacy scores, and the fact that you have, you know, will attain X% in literacy, X% in math, and there's disparities amongst the 4 elementary schools relatively large, between 10 and 20%. And I know we're all using the same curriculum. I'm sure there's some differences in the student populations, but can anybody speak to why there's such such a fluctuation amongst literacy, math, and reading between the 4 elementary schools?
I think we all looked at our data and said, what's realistic? To be fair, you know, some of the curriculum is new to us. The STAR was relatively new to us. So we sat with our own leadership teams and said, okay, obviously we want growth, but can we look at, let's be realistic for this year. I think you'll see that next year, we've all upped the ante because we're feeling more comfortable with it. And I think last year that's where we were at. But we all looked at our starting data and said, okay, what's realistic here? And there was, I think it was getting to know it, getting to know what STAR was measuring, also what we were teaching and putting everything together to look at growth.
So for the newer action plans, are you all setting the same percentage?
I think
for
we're
literacy
about
and
the
math?
I think we are this
Yeah.
time.
We're-
There
I
won't
think
be
we
as big as
feel-
a discrepancy this year.
Okay, I would just, great.
Yeah, question.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation. I know you're our newest member, Mrs. Marino. As you can see, you're in some pretty good company there. We're very fortunate here at Timberlane to have these type of seasoned principals. So I know you people you do a very good job, and you've all been at your positions for a while, and you're damn good at what you do. So thank you very much.
I'm in very good company. and I
You're in
appreciate
very good
it.
company,
Yep.
so thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, irrigation plan update.
Good evening, Tom Gary from the SAU. In your briefing packets, you should have a update letter from Busby Construction. They're our contractor that we've reached out to assist us with the permitting process for the detention pond, which feeds our irrigation system. So far to date, informational discussions have taken place with the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. The volume of the amount of water needed for the campus has been calculated. We have specified options to pre-treat the water going into the pond. We're working on outlet solutions with future maintenance needs in mind. We've researched existing property line monuments in order to establish control points for the survey crew. And we've conducted a field walk with the surveying crew to determine the extent of their scope. The next major milestone for this project will be conducting the field survey. And once this task is accomplished, we'll be prepared to submit the gathered information to the New Hampshire DES.
So, before I open something, so if you, is there any update on any type of numbers, or where was this falling in the CIP?
This is not a CIP item
Yeah.
as of right now.
Okay,
So the original budget estimates that I believe were presented to the board last year was in the range of about $175,000 to dredge and clean out the pond.
Well, and part of the reason we asked you to come back for the update is, as we move into budget, we need to get a firmer number. So, what, do you think that this is,
I
it
wouldn't-
sounds like the permitting is taking a longer time, but,
Yes, and in the letter, that explains why the process they drag out
and
the.
that's fine, I understand.
And I wasn't anticipating moving this before this budget season right now. I wouldn't hit you guys at the last minute with this. So,
So you'd have time to put it in the 1920 CIP and vet it properly.
That's
So they
that's
have the
correct.
Okay, so we're not looking at this, well, that
Oh,
answers that question then.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, I thought maybe we were gonna be looking at it for this coming budget season, but
Yeah,
it's,
but we
it's.
knew that the DES might have dragged their feet, and we might not have time anyways.
I really
Right,
don't
so-
think it was a realistic timeline, as fast as anybody could work to get this project underway in time to make it for the next budget season.
Go ahead, Dan.
You know how much water was needed?
I
No,
can
it's
tell
not
you,
in the letter, I just figured.
no, I can give you, we use roughly 72,000 gallons per cycle, and we run one cycle a day.
One second.
Yes. It's just the sheer size of the system
I was gonna
to
say,
run that
that's for
entire
that's for
cycle.
all the fields
It-
at this campus,
That's correct. That takes about a whole day to cycle through the entire campus.
from the field hockey field all the way down the end, to
That's-
field hockey all the way down this side.
That's correct.
Softball field. You mean the softball, baseball fields out here?
Yeah,
That
and
we
the
use
field,
in the
they
baseball?
do
Even
field
the
hockey in
field-
the end too.
Right,
In the back, yes.
right.
Yes.
There's something, there's a comment here about research on the extent of the prime wetland. What, is the prime wetland the pond, or,
Surrounding the pond.
so surrounding the pond is a prime wetland?
Jeff was concerned about that,
I
wasn't he?
am concerned about, a prime wetland is a specific categorization of a type of wetland, so I'm concerned
Yeah,
that that might be a
concerned
big
about that
holdup.
When we first talked about it, what we'd face there.
Yes, and that's why we brought the contractor on board to be able to communicate with DES to answer these questions.
Do you remember, Tom, who there was a soil scientist involved in this, and, I mean, obviously you got the Busby letterhead, but you've got,
No, I believe there was an engineer that came in early on that gave some preliminary numbers last year that was presented.
so obviously, yeah, I agree with you. Obviously, if there's a, when I can see it, whenever you see this in the caps here, prime wetland, it's definitely something to be dealt with.
Correct.
Okay. So you're just giving us the update. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Yes, happy to do so.
Any other questions?
Answer my question.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
And your, let's see, long-term field management plan,
Yes.
which be you also.
Yes.
Very good.
Perfect segue. So in your briefing packet is the field management plan, field maintenance management plan that our team has prepared for your review. The good news is, everything in that plan is being done right now. So we'd like to, thank the board for making it a goal to invest in the fields and make that a focus. So I can say that we have had a meeting with Osher Property Maintenance. They're our contractor that does the cutting for our athletic fields. In addition to that, all stakeholders, including athletics, our own facilities grounds team was involved in this meeting. I feel that the plan has worked, and I think the proof is in the pudding. I've received very positive comments from the community, from student athletes and coaches. Having a contractor in to be able to keep the fields at the right heights for the sport teams has relieved our team of that task and able to shift their duties onto cultivating new grass, spot replacement of turf, and other projects throughout the district.
So, I'm sorry, Peter, go ahead.
Just a couple questions. So, one of the fellows I work with, Jerome Montalvo, we share an office, used to be, in his past, was a baseball coach up in Amesbury, and Amesbury High, and also the head of the facilities there, your counterpart there, in his prehistory. And when we've talked a little bit about maintaining the fields, one of the things that he brought up was when he was, working in Amesbury, especially when he was coaching up there. Well, obviously the kids can't do like fertilizing, but after every practice, the kids were out doing something, grooming the fields, taking responsibility for their fields, cleaning up, doing the baselines, what do you call it, pulling the, evening up the baselines and such. Do we do that? Or is that all on your back?
Our team maintains most of the grounds. And I must say, I mean, even with the positive change, we see a positive response from the students on the field already.
Right, but
They're
are
just cleaning up
are
after
the
themselves.
students- Okay.
Yeah, I think that everybody's taken a little bit more pride since the fields have been improved.
Okay.
I think that,
So who is doing the, like the lime and, so Osier cuts the grass?
Right now, they're cutting the grass and also fertilizing.
Okay,
Yes.
they also, okay.
And our team has been cultivating new grass. They're the ones that line the fields. They rake out the base paths, different tasks throughout the campus.
Okay, I'm sorry.
can I speak to Mr. Belo's point? I would think it would be an when I coached my girls before we left a field at practice, we made sure, for example, make sure there's nothing left, don't leave a wrapper, don't leave a water bottle, please use the trash receptacles. I think it's a culture that you build within your team. I didn't have them raking the field though. I didn't need to, the field was properly already raked and would be all set for me, and the next day, I didn't feel they needed to do that. There are some schools that use that as a community cultural thing, just like, in Japan, they clean the rooms. It's a cultural thing, but cleaning after themselves and recycling their water bottles and those kinds of things are something I can honestly say I think every coach here at Timberlane tries to take care of. Remember, we have community teams on these fields too, after the school teams walk away. We have other teams that come down, and it's an open space, so families can come down. But when it looks good, maybe that fosters a climate of let's leave it good.
I actually believe it does.
I do too.
Yes.
Well, obviously, 2 years ago, you had the serious droughts, so I'm sure we had more normal rains, which I think probably helped the fields this
Yeah,
year,
I know,
would
I
think.
just wish that Google would update their satellite image of the campus, you know?
Yeah,
That,
Greg,
that's what I wanted to comment on.
oh,
Someone previous was a unbelievable challenge to keep those fields up to date and improving them. But I do see a tremendous improvement now when I go out there, and a lot of grass is growing where I never saw it growing before. So great job on at least keeping track of everything. And
Yeah,
looking-
thank you. It's a great team that's in place right now, and I'd like to thank the board for the support.
Dan?
So I do actually have a question, and I don't know if you can answer this, or maybe Dr. Messer can answer it. So in here, it says in a time of drought, you guys want the fields to go dormant, okay? And that means less traffic. So does that mean not allowing the other, only allowing Timberlane to use the fields?
Yeah.
So, just to cut back and just say, hey, we can't let you use our fields because they're gonna get wrecked. We can only use it for our stuff, just while we're in a drought. Is that something that we're gonna do going forward? Because I don't think we did it last year. I think they still just got used last year. I mean, you weren't here last year, so. But now, going forward, do we have that, like, are we telling these other organizations, if we go into a drought, you guys are not gonna be allowed to use the fields?
Right, I think we'll have to treat that as a case by case. Hopefully, we won't have another historical drought.
Absolutely, I hope we don't either, but I'm just trying to get it, so.
But yeah, to
if
answer,
it happens,
answer your
that
question,
they'll-
we will look at that. And obviously, I mean, our kids have to play sports. So we don't have the luxury of being able to rest. And we don't have the luxury of having an artificial turf
Right,
field.
but we can cut back.
That's
right?
correct.
So,
During the athletic committee, that was one of the concerns.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is just the tornado, all these different places that we share with, the field with.
right,
Trying to look at it, each one individually and just seeing.
right, I mean, you don't wanna say no, but.
Exactly, yeah.
Sometimes you have to for the sake of the fields.
That's correct. It's a big investment.
Jim?
I seem to recall that this contract with Osier was, what, 70,000? 50,000? How much was it?
I would say it was in the 60s.
It was in the 60s. I thought it was around 70. So are we looking at this as an ongoing expense moving forward on an annual basis? This was part of the reason we thought this should come back, because it's a budget issue. So we're looking at a cost of 65 plus in an increase in facilities?
Yes, I really think in that plan that it would not be feasible for us to maintain that strictly in-house. I mean, I think it's working right now. And I'm proposing that no change be made.
That was a one-time contract, though, an annual contract, but this will need to go out to bid then again.
Yes, I'm happy to prepare the specs, or wishes to put it back out. for
That's
bid.
probably a good idea. I seem to recall our first meeting last spring that there was a spec issue. There seemed to be, I think, 3 or 4 bidders, and it's like,
Number of bidders.
yeah, but they were all,
They were
but
different.
none of the statement of works matched. It was,
They're all over.
they're all over them.
Well, I
So,
mean, we bid it again in spring, right? I mean, that would be the year.
no, I agree with you, but I guess I would just,
You're
Spring
saying
would be
I think you want to make sure that,
apples to apples.
I think what's important to note is that you have the specs in front of
Yes, Well,
you.
now you have a plan.
That's
Oh,
correct.
yeah,
Puts
but-
the specs out.
And we will foster what we put out to bid around this maintenance plan.
no, I agree,
I think it's very
but I think what you want to do, I think what you want to look at, to actually your position, you want to sit back and take extra effort on that, because it was kind of like a trial type thing, 'cause that's how we just come on the board, Kim and I, and then basically, I think it was more of a general, I'm guessing, when they went out to bid, it was general in nature, so different people interpreted a number of mowings and that, so I think you want to tighten that thing up so whatever you think works.
Absolutely, happy to do so.
So, go ahead, Sue.
And I'll recall that the reason I sponsored Ozier and thought his plan made more sense was because he had that, we'll take a look long range, we'll keep giving you long range plans. And I like that piece of it, where some of the other companies weren't even offering that as part of their,
Sure.
part of their offer, so.
And aside from just the meeting I noted earlier on, it is, I mean, a couple times a week we're in conversation right now. So they had a big contribution to this report.
Good. Peter?
Okay, two points, one kind of yours, one not, but I'll make it anyhow. So, given the comments I think Dan originally made about, in times of drought, we've got to reserve those fields for our players and not intrude, not have outside organizations, even if they're for our kids, but outside organizations, risk damaging them. In the future, whatever contracts or written agreements we have with outsiders really has to have an out clause like that. If there's a drought, we get to, or, you unfortunately cannot use our field. Okay, if it's not there, then, I assume we have written agreements with people for this.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so
correct.
you guys got to think about having that kind of clause in there. However you
Yeah.
word it, just,
I'll have to double check. I believe there is
Oh,
some sort of
perfect. Oh,
clause
that's
that always
great.
protects the district and anything we put out, so I will double check that.
and
for you.
second, this is, I apologize, probably a really naive question, but on your cover picture here,
Yes,
there's this little neck of field.
yes.
I've never been back into that.
Field hockey.
Oh, is that what it's used for?
It's the middle school field hockey.
I've been out, like, almost to that, like, path area to get back there, but I've never been all the way back there. Okay, thank you.
It's where ex-school board members go on retreats, I think.
Cool. Can I bring my
We're having
tent?
our retreat. We're gonna have a retreat. We'll bring our tents and camp out there.
No, we want to camp next to the prime wetland.
Now, there is a span of field back there, and there's also additional space that we've looked at for any future athletic field expansion.
Oh, cool.
And the irrigation does run all the way down there, too.
It goes all the way back there.
Yeah, that's what I said when I said from field hockey field to field hockey field.
Yeah.
That's why you can imagine how long it takes to actually water the entire campus. I mean, it's,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's big.
Okay,
Thank you.
very good. Thank you very much.
Good job, Tom.
Okay. We are way, this is a beautiful one. CIP, project schedule, oh, Sue went out to get her book. Wow, God love you. CIP project schedule review. Okay, board members, this is now our part of the meeting here. Mrs. Sherman.
So if you will indulge me,
Yes.
Mrs. Chairman.
Yes.
If you look at the packet, this was the one we presented, but there is a mistake, and I'll take the blame for it. The this is FACB 0011. Construct admin office and conference room in the courtyard, in courtyard 1 for $268,000. You need to remove that. The CIP committee had voted in one of their June meetings. It's reflected in our minutes, and between myself and Dr. Farah and Mr. Dowd, we discovered that it was an error, and it should not appear there. We moved it by CIP into the next year, so you can subtract 268,000 from the bottom line. And if it's all right with you, Mr. Chairman, I'll let the Budget Committee know that there was a mistake, because it's my mistake.
Yeah, great.
Well, it's not
Thank-
great, I made a mistake, but.
Well, that's okay, well,
Great, I corrected the mistake.
there you go, thank
Wait, it
you.
was FAC what?
FACB 0011.
Oh, thank
In
you,
the
I see
middle
it.
of the
Yep, yep, yep.
page.
So that brings us to 1.6 million
16,
and change,
yeah.
if you want exact.
It's
Yes, would you-
1737235.
Slowly.
1737235.
It's not working off
1.90525.
Good idea,
268.
good idea.
Yes, I did.
I don't think so.
268,000.
Well, before we start,
Just get me the correct number, please.
Let me,
okay,
1637235.
Ah,
And carry my,
okay.
one.
So that was the thing I wanted to let you know about.
Well, there are, I think before we start going into this, if you will, there are two playgrounds which have offsetting revenue. One is in Danville, and the other one is at the Exon Academy, that I think we should do now. So instead of waiting for, this is to go for next year's budget, I think we should make this happen in this season, right now.
You want to do, which one, the Atkinson Academy and Danville?
Correct. Both those projects, one is on your CIP plan, Exon Academy at the top there for 12,000. And the other
One's
one,
down in the middle of
the one's in the middle, Danville is 15,000. They both have offsetting revenue from local support, local financial support, so, and we are still in October, so if that is within the ability here of the Facilities Department to make that happen, we would like to do that before the frost sets in. Can that,
So just to let you know about Atkinson, Atkinson already has in this current budget, in the 17-18 year, year we're working on, from the previous CIP, has already got 12,000. This is an additional 12,000.
Yeah, because they had phases.
18-19 for the 18-19 year. So, and I don't believe they have that piece of equipment yet, do they?
Oh.
I don't believe they've done that. Have they done that?
Atkinson Academy?
Yeah.
No construction has taken place, but we have met with the vendor.
could you just, why don't you, for this, if you don't mind, sit, well, the key is, as I look at it, I look at the value financially of these projects, they're relatively small, and they both have a tremendous amount of offsetting revenue, so it's not,
Well, I just wanted to let you know what was already in the budget, so.
When you say offsetting revenue, okay, in the Atkinson case, does that mean, because I'm looking at the CIP and it shows 12,000. So you're saying that they have some other donations that will bring
Bottom.
the 12, okay. Will bring that 12,000 down by 5? Or is that in addition to the 12,000?
No, they'll bring it down. Mr. Dowd.
No,
Oh, I
no.
thought it
It's
did.
an additional.
Let me
Please.
bring some clarity. I mean,
Yeah.
Tom knows what, I mean, Mr. Geary knows what Mr. Geary knows. Last night at the Danville PTA meeting, they made a $10,000 donation from Danville, from their PTA, and I just spoke with Mrs. Deotis. That 12 that's in this particular school year, and the total cost of the project, this is an additional 12, so it's 24 in total, but the project is in the 50s or something, isn't it? I mean, it's a sizable donation from the Atkinson Night Owls?
is it Night Owls and maybe Civic Club too, is it Night Owls?
Club, it's from the school, so it's a considerable
It's
donation.
around 50,000.
It's around the total project, so.
$52,679.
So I think it's important to note that during the facility tours, members of, that went on the tours got to see these two playground areas and saw them in, I don't, disrepair or in need
Disrepair,
of
and then also in both cases, our insurance company has requested we remove some of the dangerous pieces because it's
All
at
of
end
them
of
or
life.
some of them? They're not
Some.
all dangerous, but
Not
some of
all,
the
but the
pieces.
pieces that are need to be taken out of service. They're at end of life.
So Mr. Boyle's point, we looked at frost and we looked at a whole lost year because if it got into March or April, some of these kids wouldn't have playground equipment
Just what
until
happened to Pollard.
maybe in June, maybe. So we thought if we could get this done now, we'd have equipment for the remainder of the fall that is still usable and obviously into the early spring through the remainder of the school year. So it seemed to be a wise way to go about it.
Yeah. So I must say, we're probably looking at about 4 to 6 weeks lead time from time of contract signature to receive the equipment. So I think we're in good shape if we can maybe get something done.
You just answered my question. I'm good.
So-
You got it, I'm good.
So I want to make sure I understand the whole package. Let's start with Atkinson. So there is money allocated for this year already, 12,000,
Correct.
okay? So, and that hasn't happened yet.
They haven't ordered anything.
They haven't ordered anything yet, but you're close to ordering.
That's correct.
And now we're looking to add more to that. I don't understand why we don't just leave it play out in phases, personally. I mean, it's not like kids are going without, it's not like we don't have plans this year already there. We do the 12,000 now. This is showing this offsetting, whatever, it's not an offset, it's just an addition from donations. That can happen now and make it, if it's 12,000, there you get 15 to 17, and then next year we'll add another 12,000, like that's in the CIP. I don't see why it has to be all in one swell FOOP.
I think the reason, and I understand your point on that, but I think the reason is it was less expensive. Had to do with equipment
Yeah,
and
mobilization costs.
mobilization costs and those sorts of things. So they
Oh,
were,
didn't hear that earlier, sorry.
so they got a better deal doing it all at once instead of doing it in two different phases.
Volume purchase agreement kind of like a deal.
They would know the details, but, and then the parents came up with a lot of extra money to support the project, so.
And
And in Danville's case, this is the first year they've requested any money to be in this 18.
Yeah, I didn't see anything for the next
No.
year though, right?
It's just one,
It's just one.
One and done.
I don't know if it's done, but I'll read you. It says, new playground equipment will replace structures removed this fall
Yeah.
for safety reasons.
Yeah, and there's nothing there for any of the remainder of the year, so.
The playground equipment we hope to purchase will provide students a safe, sanctioned place that will allow children a place to exercise, socialize, and develop skills that can be useful throughout their lives. PTA is working with an offset of $10,000. She stated how much money she thought she'd get, and you confirmed that by being
See,
at the
last
PTA
night?
meeting. So, this is her first time requesting any money.
go ahead, Kim.
So I'm just gonna speak to Danville, because I was at that facilities tour and I saw the Danville playground. Half the swings at Danville cannot be used now. They have 90 children out there during their recess, and their merry-go-round cannot be used now. If we don't authorize some additional funds, to me, the PTA has already authorized $10,000. Danville's looking at another $12,000 to get this all done. I feel that we should authorize it in this budget year. I do know that there has got to be some extra funds in this budget year because there are 3 administrative positions that were not filled as of July 1. So, at least in Danville's case, I want those Danville children to have adequate playground facilities for this year and not wait a whole nother calendar year. So I'm speaking for Danville as their rep.
Well, and I guess along those same lines, I guess here's my, I don't know about past practice, if you will, but when I look at small dollar amounts and I look at something that is broken, whether it's a swing set, fix it. You know, it's not like we're planning on creating a playground. These are existing structures. From what I understand, there's borderline crime scene tape, if you will, up in Danville. It's like that's just replace it.
There was while the people were working, but the swings were actually removed.
Okay.
So there's no crime scene tape.
Oh, well, that's good.
What's around the merry-go-round?
Yes, merry-go-round's a little significantly harder to remove than.
I know, so there's crime scene tape.
So, and I know that a lot of people put a lot of work into creating these type of documents, this kind of stuff, and I guess it's, from a common sense standpoint, it's easier to pick off and get the smaller dollar amounts accomplished quicker, and especially when you're, when I look at, we are at early October here, and if you can accomplish something, let's get it done now. There's no zero incentive to wait. Greg?
Just to add to Chairman Boyle's statements, I had the pleasure of doing building tours last summer with Chairman Boyle and Jim Hughes. And it seems like, on some issues, like Chairman Boyle said, we are reactive instead of being proactive. So being in business, end of life, or, playgrounds and things like that in the school system, I mean, would you have a different strategy on when you run the facilities or when you kind of do your job? Would you do things differently than what we've done? Kind of
Yes.
kind of prepare for that?
I think quite honestly, the CIP process is a breath of fresh air for
Right.
that type of stuff.
But Chairman Boyle, like, as we witnessed, there were a lot of small things that we saw that should have been done regularly.
Yep.
And.
Yeah, so what we're doing is, I think I briefed the CIP committee and a few other committees, is we're doing an existing condition survey right now of all of our equipment, from playground to HVAC equipment to electrical equipment. And we can put a lifetime on all of that and start plotting these things out. So when we get around that area of end of life, it's already due for
It's already
replacement.
set. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
And we're new to the playground equipment business. Right? That wasn't really a school board. It was more of a parent exclusively, so we've just started in the last few years of getting involved in replacing equipment in partnership with the parents. It was solely on the parents, correct me if I'm wrong, you've been around for a long
No,
time.
that's right.
In the past, that was not something that the school board budgeted for or facilities. And then something would go unsafe because, and then we would obviously have to remove it and try to, and the parents would have to replace it. So it was on, so it's a nice partnership, but in plan.
But even if you see the playground at Atkinson Academy, the grass is really torn up pretty bad, and you can tell the upkeep there isn't really where it should be. So, like, things like that, even where the kids run around, and, there should be an ongoing maintenance program, I think.
Yes.
And be proactive with it.
Yeah, I think I can circle back to the field maintenance plan.
Yeah.
That we presented before, which is freed
kinda
up.
frees up your-
It freed up the team in-house to be able to attend to some of those things in the other schools. And I must say, anybody can look, things are improving.
Yep.
And I think from our facilities meeting with the principals, we heard that in terms of responsiveness.
Good.
That they felt like those kind of issues were getting taken care of. If it was something as simple as flowers or bushes or grass and those sorts of things, curb appeal kind of things that got it more, we just had people that could get there faster and get it done, so.
Yeah, even one example, I was up attending to a transportation issue up at Sandown North today. Noticed that there was a giant wasp nest that the kids, were walking past. I mean, got on the phone and we had somebody from our grounds team within 20 minutes, 25 at Sandown North, but yeah.
That's great, yeah.
Okay. Dan?
Yeah, I know firsthand that Pollard had one crime scene taped off for a year. So I'm on board. You want to get it done now, that's fine with me.
And actually, it was Pollard that really kicked it
That
into
kicked
gear.
this, that
we
started
need
this
to
whole thing,
start
that's right.
giving some of them some help, because you may
It
think
was
it's
a lot of
easy
money.
to raise, it was an awful lot of money
lot of
for them
money.
to raise, that, they had some, but it was gonna take another, maybe a year and a half to
Yeah,
raise
'cause
any more.
and as soon as we knew, the scouts went out, we did fundraising for it and everything, because it's just like, my kids are there and we got crime scene tape, we can't use the slide because it's all broken and it's, and I appreciate the effort that the
Maybe I'll
previous
make it.
board did to help us get that through, and now I'm willing to turn the favor to Sandown and Danville.
So there's one down in Sandown North too, did you see that one at the bottom? There's one more.
All the way at the bottom.
Bottom of the
Sandown
CIP,
North.
bottom of the CIP, playground equipment at Sandown North.
Okay. Now, what's the deal on this one?
Okay, Sandown North. I haven't gone out and looked at that lately, but when I did look at it, she had put it in 10,000, and then the next year, which would be, let's see, where we are, 1920, she wanted another 20,000. and expected 15 in offsetting, was hoping for. By then, have had raised enough money to replace, things that had already started to, what did she say, end of life out. Some of that equipment's 15 years old.
So,
Yeah, some of the listening audience may wonder why we can't just repair some of these things, and it's not an option, it's replace. And we can't even take one of these units apart and reassemble it somewhere else, even if it was in perfect condition, Well,
Yes.
it's,
Yeah, it's against
They
the
won't-
manufacturer's recommendation.
Yeah, once it hits that
liability-wise.
timeline, that's it. They won't do anything.
It's a liability issue with the insurance company.
correct.
so,
It looks like what they want, Sandown wants an escalator climber, and they also included the installation.
but it,
So the whole thing is gonna cost 10.
now, do they have any,
Not this first year, or not for this, that's why it doesn't show any, not for this budget year. It was gonna come in the 19-20 year.
okay.
So in the spirit of fairness, just to answer,
Yep.
so I had principals meeting, and I asked them, and the two that you've brought up, both of those principals asked for this consideration, and there wasn't any mention from Sandown
just-
about, so I don't, when you're gonna ask me if do they have funds now that are donated, I don't know the answer, but I would imagine.
That's what I was gonna ask you.
Principal Georgia would have said, wait a minute, my parents have X amount of money to donate, but
And,
that was not it.
and do you know, because I know you've got your magic book there, Sue, so,
Magic book.
do you, is that, this is for additional equipment versus repair,
Yeah,
versus faulty
adding
equipment?
more.
Okay, so there's, well, I guess the other two places, from what I understand, are more of the rip them up and,
Right, end
You
of
know,
life sort of
yes.
playground.
So,
Yeah.
one question I'm on board for this, by the way. I'll start with that. But when we look at where the funds are coming from, this is a capital project. So, the towns are taxed differently, if you will, on capital versus operating costs,
Correct.
okay? So I'm not sure
I
about the idea of
understand.
just taking it from
Well, on the oth-
unexpended, operating
No,
costs.
but it doesn't, go ahead, you can answer it. I
Well-
know what the answer is.
Yeah, in the spirit of the conversation that I had with the principals, obviously I spoke to Attorney Dowd, do we have this money in the correct lines to be able to support this in the event that the school board
Okay.
asks us to do this, and he indicated that he could do it.
Oh, okay, great. That's all I was, but when I heard it was from operating, it's like, I was just a
Yeah,
little,
yeah, no, I
we
understand.
just gotta find it elsewhere.
Yeah. So, I'd like to make a motion.
okay?
I'd like to motion that we approve $27,000 to be spent from this current operating budget with,
Not operating budget,
well,
capital budget.
capital budget, I'm sorry, capital budget. I'm not used to
I understand.
distinguishing, we didn't do that. Hold on, just gonna make sure my number here.
You're right,
That was
27.
27, 15,000 for the Danville playground and 12,000 for the Atkinson playground. So,
Second.
thank you.
One more question. So what, if anything, aren't we gonna do then? So it's 27,000 coming someplace else in capital. What aren't we doing? What are we foregoing?
Why do you say we're forgoing something?
Because the money is budgeted to do something. So if the money is not budgeted any longer to do that, then it.
And we average between $1 million and $2 million a year in a surplus.
Not out of capital.
Okay,
Again, just asking the question, what are we putting at risk? Okay?
so how much of the $2 million is in capital that gets surplus?
I don't know. I can't.
Either
answer
do
that.
I, but I know I'll bet on it's more than 27,000.
Well, and didn't at the end, in May or June last year, when Jim Hughes came, we authorized up to 50,000 because of the fact that he had excess in his capital budget,
In his
correct?
capital maintenance lines.
So we're
So,
It just seems
well
like a
below
prudent
that
question to
number.
ask.
No,
That's
no,
all.
I
it
guess,
is. I'm just-
because of the
it's a
dollar
valid
amount, Peter,
question,
that's
and-
why I'm less, I'll be honest with you, the dollar amount and the dollar amount and the calendar, I'm not as concerned. It's a fair question, but when I look at 27,000, I look at first week in October, if we're gonna do it, you do it now. You don't have those options a month from now.
Absolutely. But if we were gonna forego something, I'd like to know about it up front.
Well,
Instead of-
okay, well, let's try it this way. You've got the facilities director and the superintendent.
Operations coordinator for the SAU.
Oh, I'm sorry. You have people in this room that I would believe should be in the know if there was something being foregone.
I don't believe there is.
Okay.
And all I can say is the spirit of my question is I asked Attorney Dowd, will you be able to do this in the event that the school board asked for this, and he indicated he could, so I trust that it will be done appropriately within the budget. If that means operating funds versus, or capital funds versus operation, he knows what lines it has to come out of.
Okay, call to the vote. Oh, I'm sorry.
Before we vote, I just want to clarify, so that those two projects will come out of the 18-19 CIP. It would lower our CIP number, which we'll do the math here if there's a positive vote. And I'll carry that information on to the budget committee as well, since I'm going to make that correction, if that's okay.
It's already down to $1.6 million.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to make sure we are not leaving it in there and going to do it again.
Correct. So
Assuming the vote is
I think, I think we should, obviously, there's a motion on the floor, it's been second. All those in favor? Motion passes, unanimous, 7-0-0.
Subtract that, so now subtract 27 from.
Yeah, you're at
please.
1.6, 10,235.
1,235.
So what is the, does anyone here can speak on this fiber connection between schools? Was there something that, a question about this?
I think the fiber connection between schools, I think would be probably most appropriately answered by Ken Henderson, which I do believe he's scheduled to present to the Budget Committee.
Yes, he'll be there.
The next Budget Committee. That being said, I know we throw this term a placeholder, because just because there are modems doesn't necessarily mean it's fiber. This is my layman's explanation of this, and that it would be it's expensive to bring fiber. But he did not believe it existed. I know they were working on it, and I think that'll be part of the, will that get adjusted? Is that a high number? I really don't know.
So we spent this year, if I could, I really would like Ken here to describe it.
Yeah,
to
but
us.
I thought it was gonna
From
be-
my magic book that you call
It
it.
is. There you go. Thank you.
This year, currently, in this 17-18 budget, there is money for him to analyze and look at the solution needs. And then get a better grip on, is it, 3,000 is a placeholder, is it 285.46, exactly what it is? Because it was very, they have slow, expensive connections between the schools right now. And we're giving kids the technology, and yet our infrastructure isn't catching up. So it takes so long for them to all get on and they're trying to speed that up. So I'm hoping that number is down, would be less, but we've already invested some money by the analysis portion of this work.
Go ahead, Peter.
And so this is, I think, generally speaking, this is called the last mile problem. There's fiber all over this town, okay? And I'm not quite sure Sandtown, Danville, but I know through Atkinson as well. But the question is, does it go to the house? Does it go to the facility? Or are the facilities linked with it? And in some conversations I had with Ken, gosh, it must have been 6 months ago now, he was talking about the last school district he worked with for, where was that? Hopkinton?
No,
Hooksett.
Hooksett. And they had to bring fiber to one school only, and it was like $80,000 cost. So it's a pricey endeavor, obviously we have more than one school if we need to do that.
Isn't this the project that there was conversation that some of this work's already done?
It is, I don't believe it's done.
Well,
I believe this.
there was a
Technology,
question
internet.
about it.
Yeah, we received an email.
We
Okay.
received
We
an
all
email
received
about
an
that.
email on it. And he spoke as if he was an expert, and I suggested, why don't you speak to our expert, not to,
Sure.
unless,
Right.
I
pardon
don't-
me, maybe some of you are experts on this.
Not me.
I'm not.
I'm definitely not.
Well, I know
Speak
Ken's
to our
presenting
expert.
to the budget committee, next time?
Yep, next
week.
meeting, he's gonna be presenting.
So, I mean,
You could invite him to this meeting,
we could invite him to this meeting for our next meeting to discuss this part of the CIP, because
so
we
we
can't really.
understand it.
Yep.
So why don't
fine.
we just leave those parts for now and ask
Sure.
Ken To be at the next meeting?
Leave all the technology
Leave all
stuff,
the technology, the BIT. So
that's all.
the Danville playground equipment is off.
Atkinson's is off.
Does anybody have any, I'm just going down the list now. Any questions on the replacement of the 2006 van?
That would be, if Tom's here, he could speak to that, if he's still, did he leave?
No?
No, he's there.
No, I mean, you don't have to speak to it
no,
unless
you
somebody
mean
has a
if we
question.
have a
If we have
question. Oh, if we
questions
have a
on it, or the burnishers,
I've seen the van, I don't have any questions that needs to be
Yeah.
replaced.
or the burnishers, or, I am not in favor of replacing the courtyard windows and wall system in the high school when we're looking at strategic planning and facilities, and there could be some, oh wait, sorry,
This is
these
the
are
one
the
we already
windows.
started.
These
Yeah.
are the
These are
windows.
ones we've already
The windows,
started the
yeah.
project.
The window's fine.
Ignore that.
It says wall system, but.
Yeah, it's the windows, no,
Kevlar
forget that,
things.
I'm for that.
Yeah.
The repurposing of the space in the middle school, this was something that I thought we were going to maybe touch back with Mr. Flynn about, because wasn't this Mr. Hogan's?
We did, and we got an email, oh, I didn't bring that, oh. So what they have right now, I think what was said at the, because you missed that meeting. They have all these little cut-up, small rooms that really only function as me teacher, you student. And that's not the model. They wanna have more flexible space. Doesn't, you can't even put 3 kids in there, you're climbing all over each other. They wanna remove the walls that they have there and make it a more flexible space, make that space big. It's all taking down walls. It's 15,000 walls, take out the wall and make it a bigger space.
Right,
They can
redo
have-
it.
Yeah, more, I get, they call it flexible learning space for their special needs kids programs. So he did send me that email, I'm sorry, I should have
Okay.
shared that with you. We had received that at the last CIP meeting, that's why we left it in.
Is this, on the pack, is this the rear of that building that's the damaged part?
So, I think you should have, Tom,
Tom, can you, Tom?
Tom?
the walls on the pack.
Don't even leave, Tom. Just,
I was just
Yeah,
gonna say.
just stay here.
just stay.
So is this remove and replace us, is this the rear entrance to the pack, that the siding's falling off? Is
That's
this what this?
correct. We've done some further investigation, and I don't believe that that number is still valid. I think it's gonna be higher. I'm recommending that we do a envelope study of the pack.
What does that mean?
What do you mean envelope?
Envelope study, meaning the wall systems and the roof tie-ins, and have some architectural details prepared for this before we just start replacing what's there.
Because it's not just the back, it's the whole thing.
Yes.
So,
The building's less than 20 years old?
I know, that's,
It's the way that they, so from history, they foregoed the
That's right,
brick
bricking.
that they were gonna do all the way around. And they used this wall system with flashing, and the water is just getting in there, and it's delaminating all the wall systems that are there. On the outside, not the inside, but it's delaminating it. You see it the most in the back,
Yeah.
but it is doing it the whole way around. Wherever there's not brick, that's what it's doing.
Okay,
Remember the project?
well,
that-
obviously this is before anyone's time, so obviously there's some kind of liability issue here that whoever that contractor was, that building had to be, wow, $5-6 million, that building? Had to be.
Remember, we came back and asked for 5 more,
That's what I'm saying, so
Cut the
a
project
building
down.
should last more than 18 years.
so it's
Uh,
really aged fast.
I think we have to do a little homework, who did this, who the contractor was, and, well, seriously.
Well, no, if it works, I'm for it, you know, I don't,
Yeah, that's,
but that's what it is.
Doesn't
Like,
make
you can
sense.
see, that's why it's doing that, you know. Tom can speak to it better, I just.
So,
So what's in the CIP to do that work?
I believe it's 80,000, right?
70,000.
70,000.
but you don't have an idea of what that's gonna cost yet, because you're gonna actually have to bring somebody in to do a much bigger study on it?
That would be my recommendation, not for the 70,000. It would be a lot less than 70,000, but I think that we want to have good details before we go to start
Okay,
replacing.
so instead of remove and replace, we're looking at
Study.
an analysis of the
So-
wall system.
And
So-
probably less.
so what Dan was just talking about, so you guys have been looking at so obviously what's going on here? You have roof, what's going on here? You got a roof issue, or what's going on here?
I'm not 100% sure. That's why I would default to bring in an architectural engineer to
Interesting.
develop a scope for repair.
Can you go back
Wow.
and
That's pretty scary.
find out who the person contractor was that built this facility, and find out if they're
Oh,
still
yeah,
around?
we won't have a hard time finding out that.
Yeah, that's very easy, but it has been
18
quite a
years.
I know.
That's,
I'm sure, I wouldn't think that you could go back.
I
to
don't,
somebody at-
I don't know. I mean, if there was some kind of negligence and,
Yeah,
I
but
mean.
they put in what they were asked to put in because not we, because we weren't on the school board
Right.
then.
Yeah, no,
But because the scope of the project had to be slimmed down because of budget restraints, they did what they were asked to do this versus brick.
I'm
But that's
truly
not the issue.
comfortable
Yeah.
calling
That's not the
it
issue.
with their
I-
opinion either.
You just left the room of documents. I'm hearing now that there is a potential drainage, potential structural type issue
I don't
with.
think it's structural. Do you think it's
Well,
structural?
what do you
Strictly
think it
the-
is?
The outside siding,
It's the siding.
yes.
It's the siding, but if you have water getting behind it, that's turning into, that's a structural issue. If that's gonna turn into rotting of your sheathing, and you've got a problem there. So, I
Well, wouldn't
think,
we wanna leave some money in the CIP to have it looked at?
I definitely think, absolutely, but I'm thinking we have now a different issue, that this might very quickly become a Jeff Dow
we don't.
issue,
They
that we
haven't-
gotta
they haven't
find
given it
out
back to
who
us,
built this
so.
building. I think there's some potential liability in this, you don't just, that's a,
Gotta
wow.
leave some money in your budget.
Right,
You-
but I think what I'm recommending is that we study this further.
See what, yeah, see what we're
Rather
up
than, I
against.
don't think we should strategize.
No,
at
I
this
hear you,
point,
but I'm just-
For
I
that very
guess-
reason, if there is,
Yeah,
something
all I'm
like that
saying is, I think
future.
there's more to this story here, because it's, you just can't do that. I understand, this isn't like a single-family home, you say, well, you got a one-year warranty. It's a public building, and there's several $1 million that you can't,
So when do you think you can get a cost for a study?
I should have it within the next week or so. I just didn't have it prepared for tonight.
So-
I was
so
shooting,
for the
I was
next-
shooting for it, but
So for the next board
Leave
meeting?
it, yeah,
should have some rough estimates on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, we can
Leave it the
maybe
way it
get
is for.
no, I was asking, I wasn't gonna pull it, I was just asking a
No,
question.
no, we're not pulling, I'm just,
something.
Are we, do we want Attorney Dowd to look into,
Please.
okay.
I think you should look into who the contractor was, and then have Jeff look in and call up the school council, that I think there's some potential merit here. This is if this.
We could do those two things simultaneously.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we should do those two things.
Absolutely.
Right, right.
Because we don't know where it's gonna lead.
Right.
Yes, I agree.
moving down on the list, I didn't have any questions on anything till the Sandown Central restroom renovations, those weren't done, those have not been done yet?
They have not been done, right?
Correct.
It's Sandown,
Okay.
where are
Is
you,
it-
which
is it-
number, please?
I'm FACB 48.
48. Right, those had not been done.
And 32,000 seems a reasonable figure for those?
Yes, for what the scope of the work is, a lot of it has to do with adjusting heights for the population that's there now, of the fixtures.
Okay.
You had a different age population at one time. I think there have been some adjustments, but we can go further.
Those are the sink heights and
You know,
that part of it.
It's- The issue,
Looking it up.
the issue I have with the Sandown Central, Sandown North, is the situation that we have been apprised of at Sandown Central and Sandown North. And I'd hate to, and I don't know the answer to this question. I'd hate to invest a lot of money in changing restrooms only to find out in a year I'm gonna have to change them back again to a different height. So I'm just throwing this
It
out
would
to
be
the
my
board.
opinion to still leave money in there, because we do have a population of children in there right now.
Are they
Right,
too
then you
high?
You can't reach the sinks.
Is that the problem? Are they too high?
In some spots, you do have stools in the bathroom so the children can reach certain
Since they're too
fixtures.
high.
We're better than that.
And I would think that would cause us safety
Oh, the
problems.
stools are
That
Timberlake
was-
color. What's
Yeah,
Well-
come on.
We are, but we're talking 18, 19, and the crunch time for Sandown comes a year later.
Yeah.
So you could potentially be doing something that's gonna be a year and then you're gonna redo it.
So would you wanna do half now?
I don't know, I
Split
would
it
have thought
and do
that,
the half? I don't know. I don't know what the
I-
answer is.
I don't know
I'm just
either.
saying that if.
I don't-
13, I can tell you how many sinks it is. It's 13 toilets. I don't have the sink number, but I have 13. 13 toilets that are too high. And urinals. for the children to use, so, unless they grow taller in a year.
Well, no, I'm not saying that, but again, it
Another plan.
speaks to a long-range plan here, is that
There isn't one.
there isn't one. Thank you.
But in the face of there not being one, we should do something
Well,
for these kids.
Maybe you're right, maybe half and half makes, at least then if
I mean,
you
if
do
we-
have to
we get
redo it,
half
you've only done
now, we get
half.
Half. I
Do it
mean,
now.
No.
Well, that's 32,000. I mean, we just took 27. This is another capital expense. I don't think we want to dip that far into the capital budget at this point in the
Oh, Jeff here.
year.
Yeah, this is really early.
Yeah.
I'd leave it
yeah.
in, I'd leave it in and let that project go ahead with urinal toilets and sinks,
Well, we can leave it in.
2 years.
Even if you leave it in, and it may not happen in
Yeah, that's-
1819.
I would just leave it.
At
in.
least the money's there.
Yeah.
We may not
Do
use
it,
it for
I'd
that.
leave it in.
Now that I've heard about step stools to get to the sinks and toilets, is there any liability issue in that? Having kids have to go up a step stool in order to, I mean,
I'd be worried about that.
I don't know.
I'm serious,
I
you know,
agree with
I
you.
haven't,
I mean, I don't wanna,
No,
I
but
don't wanna
I
drop the
haven't
dime
got
and
on a
call the
stool to
insurance
use it.
company, but, you know,
so.
I mean,
Well-
they have some big toilets that have already been done, right?
Right.
Yeah.
okay.
I would assume
Not like
some
the
are at
whole
the
building
proper
is too
height.
tall and they carry their stool with them.
I mean, do we know kind of roughly, like, what proportion of the building this covers?
I wouldn't be able to give you off the top of my head.
This project was supposed to cover, from my magic book, the main
I like that,
corridor,
I guess, huh?
I know, the main corridor beside room 308, which is our lunchroom, and some classrooms. Because
Right.
elementary schools have a separate
All have a
bathroom.
separate bathroom.
So
Mm-hmm.
you don't leave and go
Right.
down the hallway all by yourself, you stay right there in the classroom and I can't reach the.
Maybe find out how many are actually just in the classrooms versus the ones that
Yeah,
are
I
in
know
the
the
halls,
one by
right?
the cafeteria is a pretty heavily trafficked
Yeah, they use
restroom.
that heavily. So I'd leave the money in and see what happens, but you may get to that point and say, yeah, we're making a decision on the building.
Right.
I'm not in favor of the classroom observation windows.
I can speak to that a little bit more.
Okay.
I have discussed with Ms. Rincon, the Director of Special Education. She sees the need for it. She wants to really promote the TLC program and be able to bring in observers. On top of that, parents to be able to bring in, to be able to see the class in action. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, these are,
This would have an impact on the educational environment, so that's why I
So this
label
is
it.
the room that they use for the TLC room that's off.
This
kind
would be
of
for TLC.
Off to the side, because I did go over there.
it's windows, it's not one window, it's windows. So that the professionals can see into that environment without disturbing the environment.
Again, I guess we can leave it in there, but we have the big question mark as to what's happening in those two schools moving forward, so.
So is this one room or several rooms?
It's
Several windows.
Yeah, in one
Several.
room or several rooms?
several rooms.
I'm under the understanding that it's several rooms.
Would it be less expensive to put a video camera up and a monitor out in the hall?
That presents privacy issues to do the camera.
Why?
It's videotaping staff members.
Well, it doesn't have to be
Recorded.
recorded,
Just
just
in
just a
my-
camera to a
Monitor.
But
monitor.
in my
Where
history,
would you
in my
put
history
the
with
camera?
security and facilities.
Yeah, the camera's mounted up
we
on
run
the
into
wall
some
and the
opposition.
monitor's outside on the wall, and that's the same thing as having a one-way window that anybody can look through. I mean,
You would think.
you would think.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know, Tom, but
Yeah.
Tom, was it under your impression that these were one-way glass, like if I'm in the police station? Or these are what I call fishbowl? You can see me, I can see you,
That is the-
but I'm not
that's-
stepping into your environment and sitting down saying, what are you doing?
That's the concept,
oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
to do that, yes. Will it look like it does on TV? I can say no, but it will be close.
Okay.
It's not much money.
Yep.
That's
And
true
again,
too.
If it doesn't look like we're gonna be using that building for that, it's an extra 15.
Yeah, that doesn't bother. The one that jumps out at me is I think about a month ago that I just asked Tom to prioritize just this year, just give it 1, 2, and 3. And you had a priority 3, which I agree with you, on 2 additional tennis courts at the high school, which is a $90,000 item, that when I look at that compared to other things on this list, I think the tennis court thing is, so I won't use the words wish list, I'll use a nice to have versus.
I can explain my priorities a little bit. It wasn't, I think all the items on the list have merit, and they've all been
Well,
vetted.
yeah, of course they do, yeah.
But I think when I had a 3 next to it, it meant that further talks and planning were in place. Who knows if that's the right place for the tennis courts, or maybe we'll develop something on our strategic plan that puts them on the other side of the campus. So that's,
I'd like, personally, I'd like to see $90,000 go to a new parking lot myself.
The only issue, may I, actually?
Please.
The only question I have with that is, you know, and no slight to Mr. Geary here, but that's a Mr. Fantasia request. He runs the athletic program, and it seems like he ought to have at least the ability to defend it before we take it out.
No, that's fine. I'm just asking a question here.
Oh, okay, I thought you were like considering asking the board to take that out right now.
When I'm looking at this whole list,
Yep.
you know, and that's what I'm doing right now, that's something to look at, that,
Like, I haven't watched tennis myself since Arthur Ashe was playing,
Right, so
but that
this-
doesn't mean I wouldn't listen to Mr.
I thought you
Fantasia.
played on a tennis team, Mr. Boyle, in high school. There's 6 singles matches,
excuse me,
right?
I did not. You mean
Oh, I
Kevin?
thought
will.
you did. Kevin
Me?
did.
Kevin did, yeah.
And you
no,
played
please.
on those courts.
Yeah, Kevin
So
did, yes.
it takes so long to play because we only have 4 courts. There's 6 singles matches. So 2 singles matches sit out and wait, and then they play, and so that holds it keeps holding things up. So in the world of tennis, you always play 6 and 3, right? Three doubles matches and 6 singles matches.
Didn't they increase the tennis courts here in the last couple of years?
No, we
Didn't
only
they?
have 4. We have 4.
We
How-
just had
how many
this-
people do we
had a
have on the
discussion
tennis
about this
team?
already once.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, well,
But they
weren't
don't-
they here?
So say they have 12. I mean, well, how many
Do
on
we-
baseball team?
No, I don't think we even have a men's tennis team, that's my point.
Well, we had a tennis team.
Do we have a men's tennis team and a women's, and how many
So
are
we
on the
had-
women's? I don't think we have hardly anybody
You
on the
don't think there's
tennis
6
team.
girls that play tennis?
There's 7.
So there's 7 girls, so we're.
As far as
we're-
I know,
we're
there's
getting-
7. I'm not positive of that, but that number's sticking out in my head right now. Last year there was more. This year I think there's 7. So
7.
I'm not positive.
So we have 7 and we have no men.
As far as I know, there is not a.
So we're talking about
We
putting,
don't currently have a men's team.
Yeah.
so we're talking about putting 2 additional courts and we have a team of 7 women. And we already have 2 courts?
Yeah, I think it was
We
8.
have 4
and-
courts.
Is it 8 or
We have
7?
4?
But that said, we have low numbers in that program right now. The issue, when this first came up, we were, I think, that was probably the first time that this came to CIP, was probably about the same time we stopped having a men's program. So running a meet, when you have boys, a competition, when you have boys and girls, you know, it was a multi-hour piece because of the limitation of the numbers. But with just the girls, it's a little bit less of an issue. But even if you're gonna have everybody play and they play the doubles, that's the nature of that sport. It takes some time
Play
to
6
do it all.
singles and then.
So it certainly does matter how many courts you have in terms of, you know, what you can host, what you can, you know, if you have just one team, because we're limited to having just one team, you know, come to play us. If we have more, it just makes it a very long event for parents and everybody else. So it came out of that concern. Right now, our numbers did not, I think the original request was for more than
Yes, it was. So
4.
this
Yeah.
is the second year they've
So-
made the request.
So they reduced it, you know, to try to make it more reasonable based on the
Yeah.
enrollments, but I think there was an anticipation that we would regenerate the boys' team. And that could still happen. You know, ideally, we would have a boys' team, but we didn't have a turnout. And the coach didn't feel like it was.
I
So,
agree.
so Dawn, now that you're sitting there, which is good, you can answer the question I think that Dan was gonna. I was under the impression that in the last couple of years, something already happened there.
We did fix.
So we
We
reclaimed.
resurfaced.
They resurfaced them.
Surface last
They
year.
repaired it, they had cracks and
Oh, I
whatnot,
see.
and they did some work to
Okay.
make it
That was
better.
last year, yeah.
Right.
Kinda
Because, and I think at that time, Angelo had said that those courts were nearing the end of their life.
Right.
there was
Yeah.
some huge holes in them, and he says they're only gonna get worse, and I mean, it was a long discussion about
Right.
these courts.
It's time to start to think about where we're going long-term with these courts.
Absolutely.
And it also then brought in those other questions about what do we do with this whole area back there and parking, and how would that tennis courts?
Moving them out, putting them near the.
How would that
near the-
factor in? We didn't have an
the
exact
forest,
design, we just had a sense that there's probably a better way to do it,
Yeah. Right.
and, you know, that's where it sits.
So in the last few years, we've resurfaced,
Repaired.
repaired.
Repaired, sorry.
And
Okay.
now they need much more work.
Okay,
No, but this is not for work on the existing courts.
It is too. It's gonna be some resurfacing and building 2 new courts, according to the.
I'd be all right with, well, I'm not even sure I'm okay with, I guess we could leave resurfacing in for 18-19, but again, we have no plan. We may have a plan by 18-19, but I'm not in favor of putting 2 courts in when we only have 7 women and we have no men, and we may never reconstruct a men's tennis team.
well,
I mean, it's an extraordinary amount of money for,
well, to piggyback that, it sounds to me like it's already, there's been conversation about the long-term, the best place to have those. And if you're gonna possibly move a tennis court and construct a parking lot.
I think there's all types of conversations about just whether that spot for the tennis courts and the condition of the surface, everything there is, it needs to be totally redone. If it's gonna be redone, now it's the time to consider if we're gonna put it somewhere else.
So maybe we could leave the money there, Kim, and then you could have, if that gets tennis court slash parking lot, you know, that's, you need the money to do both those things.
Right, so even if we said, maybe we're not gonna do 2 additional tennis courts, but we're gonna build 2 new ones and remove that one where it is to do the parking lot or whatever, you know, the money's there. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I just know there's a chunk of money you need it's not, I granted, and I hate to, I know that again, there's a lot of work was put into things and stuff, but this is gonna happen within a year, definitely within, we have a parking problem, period. So, and it's, and I guess I'm glad that, from what I understand, the superintendent sent with you that there's some kind of a survey in the works, and this is great.
Right, we're trying to, you know,
Fantastic.
get the idea from the students about what, given the opportunity, who would
Yeah.
be able to
Sure.
take advantage of that.
Yeah, that way you can see what your return on investment is, but you
Right.
can clearly, anyone driving up and down, there's a parking.
well, and the return on investment comes from the fact that you've got students that are driving as opposed to riding the buses, right?
Yeah, but it's a bigger problem. So I guess that's all I'm saying is when I see that chunk, and then that it's money, so it's a task. So if that gets
I'd
combined
love
with
to-
something else.
I'd love to have Angelo come in, because he'd talk about, I have a note here that, from my discussion with him,
That's fine.
of resurfacing, having to do something, because what you've got right now needs to be worked on somehow. Whether we build 2 more or not, something needs to be done there.
Do you have what we spent last year to, it was in last year's CIP, was the repairing of those courts, I'm pretty
I
sure.
think it's 95.
Do you like Angelo on the 19th?
Yes.
Okay, so we got
So
Ken
Don't-
Henderson, we got
Please
Angelo.
don't get it done. I know who I am.
Is there any, is there anybody else that we should,
I don't know, we're not done yet.
Well,
All right,
Yeah, we're getting to the
Ken
bottom.
and,
we're getting to the
They didn't
bottom.
have
and-
any money. They took it all out.
We're getting to the bottom,
Still fix it,
and
though,
Tom
I
is now
They had.
accused, so.
yeah. Well, Tom, you also had as a low priority replacing the art cabinets and the sinks in Sandown Central. Why was that?
I wouldn't say low.
Well,
There was just
a
different
third.
criteria.
Yeah, but, well,
3 being, there are talks now about the future of,
okay, so
Yeah.
that's on that same rationale as to why that might wanna hold off on that.
Okay, so she said, I heard the principal there say art, that they were using kids, engaging them in art as a way in their action plans. And so when she said that, I thought, oh, they're trying to refurbish a space for them to actually do art, that isn't, again, having to use a stool to get up to the cabinet to wash your paint brush and then fall off the stool, and you bring everything down, right?
it was all for age-appropriate
Right.
cabinetry
Right.
and fixtures.
So, that was that spoke to me, but,
Do we invite any of the leadership here tonight, like?
At the last meeting, I asked that if people wanted had questions on specific items, to bring those,
Right.
to let Sue know, so that those people could be here.
Yeah. I just thought
So
maybe
I don't
they'd
think
want to be
anybody
here
let
as
Sue know.
well, just to kind of.
Did anybody ask you, Sue?
no, nobody asked me, but I did ask, to make sure, I knew Tom was gonna be here anyway, so, and Dawn, cause I thought, yeah.
So, yeah, that's fine, so we can,
Next time.
But we
Make
could ask
these
that, we
people?
could
Sure.
have her come in and talk about that, again, it wasn't her project, but now that she's there, and
Mm-hmm.
speaking to Art, let's have her explain what her vision is there, Tom.
Yeah, I'm just thinking with the tennis courts, and
Oh,
there's a lot of
yes.
questions being
So that would be
asked tonight.
asking
Yeah, it would have been
Jen.
great to have it, tonight.
Ask Jen.
okay.
Yeah. Do you want Beth Rincon?
Oh,
About the windows?
I'm all set.
You're all set for the week, then leave the windows.
I do think, though, that before the next meeting, I certainly will do this myself, that people should look at the Sandown plan that you and Christie did, and feed that into what we're looking at right here, because some of that is, that's that crunch time is there. And so you're looking at doing, again, I'm not saying that I don't think the art cabinets are valid, but you're maybe looking at doing a project that's then gonna be disrupted in a year. So, again, I think you really have to start.
Maybe you can move those wherever the program's gonna be someplace. Maybe you
I know,
move
but-
to another place.
Well, I don't know, maybe, I just,
Board, yeah. Move cabinets between buildings. Do we do that?
Well, we'll just make sure they have wheels on them.
No.
Screw them to the walls, don't nail them to the walls.
Well, let's ask those questions. Let's get people in and ask those questions before we send any recommendation off to the budget committee. Let's hear it ourselves. The budget committee's gonna hear it, right? We could hear the same information and pass on our recommendation.
Okay.
Through Danny or?
And on the, have you, personally looked in updating these roof numbers?
The roof,
You got
The roof for
roofing going
Atkinson
on, middle
especially?
school, music wing, I'm just curious if you just.
I haven't got to the music wing. I have updated pricing for the Atkinson roof project, which looks like it's coming in at a higher number than was anticipated when this was presented. So,
So the Atkinson roof is on
Atkinson
this
roof is
year.
at end of life. The most recent quote I have is roughly $125,000.
Wow. That's, okay, that's, okay.
so, as opposed to
So,
85.
put-
And what was the number you said?
125,000 was the budget number I was given.
So,
That's using the same specification that we've recently used on a project in Hampstead. So it might just be a variance in specifications, but the updated number, this would be the spec we'd want to use for the long term, for the roof, yes.
so, Sue, I'm thinking that, I know the budget committee meets next week, right?
Yeah.
Is that maybe we should take this year one and fix it, and then give them an updated version?
Yeah, can I, real quick? What I'm thinking in my head, right, is because this is gonna go back and forth, because the budget committee's gonna do the same exact thing we're doing right now.
Sure.
So I'm thinking that whether Sue does it, or Jeff, or whoever, that every week this is gonna have to be updated.
Yeah, and then you get hundreds of these pieces of paper.
But that's my
flying.
point, like, right now, we'll have this, it's gonna get updated and given, okay, budget committee, this is what the school board did. And then the budget committee's gonna look at it and say, okay, you know, they're gonna make their changes and give it back to you and say, this is what we did. You see what I'm saying? That's gonna happen.
Well, I agree with you, I agree, but I think Kim's point is, the things we've crossed off are not because we don't believe in the project,
No,
gonna do
the
it
ones that we're
someplace
doing, absolutely, I'm just saying, I get it, but that's what, I think every week this is gonna have to be updated until it's,
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be that long. I think by our next meeting, this is gonna be done.
If we can get everybody in by the next meeting,
Yeah.
we'd have, I'll send along, just take these things off and bottom line it, but then, we're coming back again, or you can tell them,
Right.
They're coming back again
Right,
with something here that they wanna hear, have you hear.
right.
And then just, we
Only
might as well,
change it once instead.
well, might as well update the roof number on this too.
What's the roof number?
The roof number's now 125, not 85.
So is that a quote from a roofer?
What
Correct.
project is it, Kim?
That's FACB 0028, Academy.
28.
Brian, I mean, you seem surprised at a high
Not
number to you
changing
for that?
I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
I guess what throws me off is that if we, someone on our team, if you will, said in the last 6 months, hey, I think it's gonna be 85,000, and now you quote from a contract.
No, I really think it was a specification issue, and this would be the specification we'd want to use for the long term of that,
Well, you're changing the specification, you're saying.
to do the right thing with the project, yes.
You're increasing the specification, that's what you're saying is driving the number from 85 to 125.
That would be my best educated guess, yeah.
Okay. And I guess it might make sense to have somebody then, when I'm looking at the middle school roof, you've got one number, there's one number in there for design, one there for, so see how good those numbers are.
Yep.
This is the budget season, so if we have the similar math issue, that 100 might become 150, 160, so.
Right. I should have had that today. I should have it tomorrow, so I'll have that
We'll have
updated
it
number
next
on
time.
the middle school.
Sure.
And then that's what you present to the budget committee,
Yes.
Okay.
which is your CIP number.
So I have a quick question for Sue probably, or somebody else might remember this. What was the total for last year's budget from the CIP? Do you know?
Whole thing,
Technology included? I'm just trying to get a rough idea.
1601780.
Wow, we're really close.
No, we're at 1650235 now, because we just added 40,000 to it. for the
Oh, that's-
No,
Updated roof number.
no.
You don't
We're
want me
not
to-
changing the CIP. This number's frozen. We take off, but we can't,
Oh, you gotta go back to the,
What?
yeah, that's
What do
right.
you
we
mean?
froze the CIP when we voted. But,
Oh, you
so
see,
the
just the-
number is 85 here. He's gonna go to the budget committee and say, I'm gonna need a little bit more.
Yeah.
than
I understand.
Yeah,
See?
I understand what Dan's saying, but yeah, but
Okay.
I get both
1.6
points.
is pretty close to
You
what we
just
had last
arbitrarily
year.
change numbers in a CIP.
No, you don't change the
Yeah.
number.
I get what you're,
See what I mean?
That's fine. I just wanted to see where we were in comparison to last year.
Yeah.
If we were-
Yep,
Pretty
and that,
close.
I mean, I'm rounding it off, but 1601.
So Sue, moving forward, what would you recommend?
Keep a CIP and have a strategic plan? No.
Just- But, so you wanna ask Ken and
I want,
the
I'd
other,
like to hear, I think we should give Ken the courtesy of
Right.
explaining, there's a
right,
lot of
I
this.
do too.
He approved a technology plan,
and
and
Angela.
it's all
And
connected.
he's doing a great job, yeah.
So, and then, maybe you want Angelo here to talk about tennis courts, so maybe you're gonna make the
Yeah.
decision without him, but I would like to have him here, I think that's only fair.
Yeah.
And whoever else you want, who else
I
do you
think
want?
we also said Jen.
Oh,
Jen
Jen
Marino,
Marino
yeah.
from Sando, so we can hear what her thoughts are
Okay.
about those art cabinets, how she's connecting that to the learning stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
Who else? Was there somebody else?
No, that was it.
And that's it.
That's it.
So that, I have a question. The signage. So I know that they wanted to put a digital sign in, and that's why the price is 20,000. I guess I got a couple questions. Is Sandown okay with that?
You mean the town?
The town.
The town, because I know in Pollard, we can't do it. They won't allow us to do it.
I do know there is one about
Oh, that's right.
500 yards
Yeah,
past the
auto
school.
company has one.
But
Also, I mean, Sandown Central, is that the one that we're having issues with? That we're not sure what's going on with it? Is that the one?
Yeah, that's the
I
one
get the
that.
two confused,
That's
so-
the one that has the younger grades in
Okay.
it. That could potentially be closed down if we decide to add on the north.
So
Yeah.
here's my question. I don't know the school that well. Can we move the current sign? From what I
the
understand, the
current,
sign
the
is like
current,
set back.
the current
right?
sign now, I
Yeah.
think if you sneezed on it, would
Okay.
get knocked over.
Yeah, I think you breathe on it.
And the new sign would be able to be moved, whatever happens with Sandown Central. And that's what
You
I
could
explained
put
that
it
to
in north
CIP.
if
You
you
take it
wanted
reload.
to.
Correct.
Right, I know that. I have these signs, so, okay, that's fine.
Are we good?
Yeah.
All right,
Good
so
session.
I'll let the
Thanks.
budget committee know those 3 removals and explain why. you want to follow.
All righty.
So you'll be at that meeting? The next one?
Budget committee, I can.
Um,
I'll let Dave know.
On the agenda, I'm not really sure why. Was this a placeholder budget update?
No, you had asked me just to give you
An
a
Oh,
quick
thank
update
you.
on kind of where I am in this process. You know,
Yep.
annually, typically before the principals and department heads actually get an opportunity to present in front of the budget committee and/or school board, we typically, myself and Attorney Dowd, formerly Mrs. Stokinger, we meet with them, we obviously go through their budget. So I just wanted to give you an update that we have them pretty much scheduled over the next 2 weeks. It's all day, every day, and we go line by line. I call it zero-based budgeting, but we start with what you need, and then we go from there, and then we work with them. They have to do the input into Infinite Visions, and so we'll have that, we'll go through that process over the next few weeks. When we discussed this, when we had our Tuesday meeting, it was more about, well, where do you think you'll be on October 19th? So getting through all that, I'm not sure we'll be through all those departments yet by then. And,
The 19th?
the 19th.
I think I set it up so that they would definitely be done before they're presented with the budget committee. So,
But they're spread out throughout the season during the budget season.
yeah, they're
I know.
spread out.
But I have,
2 or 3 sessions next week and then 2 leftovers the following week.
sometimes it takes more, it's great if it works in one meeting, an hour, 45 minutes, an hour with each one, and sometimes there's a second meeting or third, depending on adjustments that need to be made, those sorts of things. So, that's where we are. They're scheduled, so we'll be starting those when we get back, next week. So, and we'll see where we are. When we meet on that Tuesday, I'll have somewhat of an idea about what I think the plan will look like, and then, I don't know what we'll have to report out on the 19th in regards from departments, but, we'll have something, but I don't know what that is yet.
I have 2 quick questions. What was the surplus number for last year? We still don't have that? The actual amount?
The final number, I
Yeah.
met with, obviously, school board chair, and I don't know, Brian, what your understanding was, and we got an explanation as to revenue, and
Yes, but I'm trying to think what the hard number was that he's, was it $1.5 million? I think what the,
the auditors haven't given us the final number.
it was his internal number, non-audited. I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was around $1.5 million is my recollection.
Could we have that for the next meeting?
If the auditors are done.
No, it's not dependent on the auditors. It's typically presented to the school board in
Yeah,
September,
it's-
what the final surplus number is.
Yeah, it's,
The calculation's done.
well,
Not even if it isn't done? What the number
I don't
is?
know, I don't know why
I
we're,
can just give you a number and say that's the number.
no, I'm
Right.
just saying that,
That, that
I'm
does,
just not sure what the delay is on the number. I
just
know
told
that
you, we didn't
yes,
get it, the auditors haven't given us the number.
Okay.
So if the business administrator just says a number, it doesn't mean it's the number, the auditor, the official number comes from the auditor. So you're asking for the official number, and we don't have it. If you want a random number that we just pull out of the sky, we can, it will be in the ballpark, right?
right, that's pretty much what I was, when I had to
Okay,
sit down, that's,
so the
that was
auditors are
the
slower
latest
than-
educated guess. That's
Well,
what it,
we sat down and looked at the audit, and I said, geez, when do we get it, and so it was
looked at
March.
last year's audit.
We got the report in March. So when did we get the draft? January? December? I know Mr. Velo got it sped up. It was faster than it had been in the past. I know we want it earlier, but they haven't completed it.
So, but now you're saying that you're not gonna get the draft of the audit till January or March, so does that mean we're never gonna have a firm?
That's not what I said. I said that's what happened last year.
Okay, so,
My hope was we'd already have it. We don't have it. We asked for it, just like you asked for it, I asked for it. I don't have it. So I just said, I looked at Brian when we were looking at it, I go, when did we get, and we looked at the date, and we said, oh, we got it in March. We got the final report in March. So, and that was with a lot of pressure to speed it up, because that would typically come out in about June. So I don't know who thought we got an official number in September, because that's never happened. Absolutely never happened, not since I've been here.
well, maybe it has been an unofficial number.
Yeah, it's just a number from the business administrator, the same number, he's just a random,
Okay,
like,
so-
his, a
Well,
guess.
I don't think it's a guess. I mean, I think it's a,
No, it's not a guess, it's his number that's not official.
correct.
So it's close, it's in the ballpark, but it's not the official number. You're asking for the official number. He gave you where about it is.
Okay, no, I'm not asking for the, I want the ballpark number. I would like to know the ballpark number, because
And I
we're
think it
going
was-
into budget season, we're asking for a
It
budget,
was $1.5 million.
okay, $1.5 million.
That's what I
all.
recall.
Yeah. And I thought it was a little higher than that, but,
I think for some reason it was $1.5 million and change, just under $1.6 million. That's what I remember.
and that's with some adjustments and those other
Yes,
things
there
we talked
was-
about.
Yes, there was, we spent about 20 minutes discussing Title I, Title II funding. Funding that, showing the $30,000, well, actually, that was last year's number, showing, I believe, a $30,000 shortfall in our food service program.
And then like,
And
and
there
about
was-
45,000.
There's a
short of the pack.
$45,000 shortfall in the pack. So there was approximately 3 or 4 different revenue sources. I'm sure you remember that, Peter, from.
I do.
Yeah.
And it,
And the two big ones were food service,
Yes.
transportation. That's how we went from 6 down to 3, right? Those that, so.
Kind of, not germane to the surplus, but to the whole auditing process. Do you know whether Jeff is calculating a new net asset value for us? Last year, in order to get the net asset value of our properties, we went out, we hired a consultant to go back to 1965 and move it, figure out the value of everything.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a one-time deal, though, because we had never done that. As far as I could tell, about half the school districts in the state report that, half don't. It is a generally nice thing to do, accepted. So this year, Mr. Dowd should be able to take last year's number and just increment of the year, and I'm hoping that we're doing that again this year.
we didn't talk about that, but.
Yeah, we didn't, that was not discussed, so
I mean, it's just,
Yep.
once we, the effort was put into, getting the 2016 number, and that took a long time, so
So
I
once
hope
you
that we
have-
use it.
What I did ask Jeff to do, which I know he's got a few things to, but I did ask him for this, to have the 19th meeting, that, his latest is obviously, we will now be in mid-October. So as we all know, our books close June 30th.
Yep. Any
Entries made by the auditors should not be in the millions. That should not be the case.
If there are serious issues, and there haven't been in the past.
That's what I'm saying. So there should, you've got the same group, you've got
Yeah.
so what would be necessary, obviously it's helpful, necessary to know the year-end numbers in terms of expenditures. The revenues, there were different sources, so now that I've seen personally these different revenues, granted, we know where the bulk of the revenue is, but there is approximately $3 million of revenue that comes from Title I, Title II, then you've got the food service and this kind of stuff, so there's some variation there. But I'm hoping that, because I can live with, and I'm sure probably the board can live with, the internal Timberlane report. In other words, so if when he comes on and says, okay, this is it, he can put a letterhead on and say, I don't have the adjusting entries for this, but these are my internal, these are our expenses. Yeah, I'm good.
I hear you. But you gotta realize, so, you've done accounting and auditing in your past, right?
Long time, yeah.
Long time ago. Those kinds of people hate doing that. They want to give you the right number once. It's a mindset issue. And
I understand,
And I'm
but-
good with it as well. But what you're asking for, I'm good with as well, but it's,
But it won't, anyone, is people that are trying to do their due diligence, making decisions about numbers, it won't do you any good to have them in February.
oh, absolutely.
right.
No, no, no.
That's my
you're
It won't do him any
absolutely
good
right.
at all, so it's, and I was talking, Jeff, about it at such a high level, I said, because you've seen these account reports, and I said, one page, how it breaks down, he has reports that go up to 100 pages. To give me that summary type stuff, that's good, boom, 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 he's got it, I know he's gonna do it, so I'm confident that we will.
So we're gonna get that sort of high level,
That's kind of what I'm
Unaudited,
counting on.
basically
That's-
the
that's-
ballpark for next
that's-
time.
What I told, because my suggestion was that, and I realize this is a vendor, so my suggestion was, I said, Jeff, I would call up that, because obviously, it's a report, it's a counter report. I'm guessing they already have these numbers, the expenditure part of it. They won't, they're not gonna wait. They have that. He has his, I'm confident his records are pretty good. So I said, you can call them and get, I think it was pages 13 and 15, of what I remember.
Well, 16, we spent a lot of time on page 16.
So I said, so get this year's, that's it, great, and if you can't get that, I can clearly live with your stuff, Jeff. So that's all. So I think we're gonna have what we need.
For next meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
So I let him know, there's 200 things he's gotta do that, he can put that in the top 20.
All right, so we can move on then.
So-
Okay.
So, we'll see what happens, then I can just talk to the superintendent and say, hey, how'd you make out with him, so basically, Earl's his boss, not me, so all I can do is.
I've had other chairs call a couple times about audits, right?
Yeah, I'm back.
Gentle,
Once or twice.
gentle reminders.
Yeah.
I walk down the hall, another gentle reminder.
There you go.
So we'll
We'll get
we'll
it.
see where we can go.
So we must have had the same thing with we left warrant article on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now that you've seen the CIP,
I don't think there's anything on there,
let's think about that a little bit.
I
You
don't-
know, was there,
I don't think there's
as you
anything.
get it, more information, did anything jump out at you that you'd want to put to the voters in a warrant article form? The committee didn't see anything when they were working, but
Well, One question
think about that.
one question I had is, again, it's a really small item in the scheme of things, but like in last we tend to put vehicles on warrant articles. I saw that replacement van.
New,
Oh,
think of it, whatever, I don't think we have to do it just because Plasto does it.
yeah, well, I was just using it as an example, that's all. Yeah,
You
good
probably
point.
have,
This is
I'm
the-
gonna guess in Placer, do you have what do you have, like a maintenance plan on
Have a
certain vehicles?
CIP for
The police
Yeah, we
vehicles?
replace police vehicles.
Yeah,
at a
that's- yeah,
certain-
we-
Yeah, I
we-
guess, yeah, but if,
Spend money
can see
when
that.
it's-
I guess
We
we
do
don't.
that, yeah.
If this is a replacement, I guess not. It's,
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
if
he's,
it's for $25,000, it's like,
he did well, he went on, did a little bargain hunting, yeah, I saw the little thing, but that was a good deal.
Yep, it was.
He well, good little shopper, did a good job.
Did anything, other than, I mean, I don't know if we wanna put on what I consider some of these low ticket items, I don't think we want,
I don't
we
know,
wanna put those more on
I
articles.
thought typically your warrant articles,
Well,
you
some-
don't have any threshold value, but I don't recall seeing anything below a couple $100,000.
Right.
At the school level.
yep.
Right,
Right.
on the school level.
And I don't see anything here that's,
We don't have a TSSU contract this year, and we don't have a teacher contract this year.
Well, see, this is something we'll think, granted, we won't, no, we don't, here we are, October 5th, but who knows? Maybe we'll have some information for potential parking lot as a warrant article. Who knows?
Right, that can absolutely change.
Well, you certainly can do that.
Somebody
You
can
know?
come out with it.
So,
Well, and I don't think the voters would be displeased if there were no other warrant articles.
oh, no,
You know,
that's,
so-
no, I know, well, I'm not trying to,
No, I meant that facetiously,
Maybe
Brian.
there's
It's
some
like,
strategic
Yeah.
planning you wanna put as well.
yeah, but
what?
Strategic planning.
no,
What do
the
you-
architectural, you're looking at getting planning money, a couple $100,000 in planning money.
I don't think that's feasible for this.
Oh, too late,
This
okay.
budget year.
right,
Well, I don't wanna put the cart before the
Right.
horse, so
Right,
to
right,
speak.
right.
Maybe that's
Right.
not what comes out of the strategic plan. I would think it would, but
Just,
it does mean, though, that if that money's not there in 18-19, that you're looking at 19-20 till you do architectural and 20-21 until you actually do something.
So, this is really broad. Say this went down, CIP went down by 100. Would you then want to do the study?
It's not really up to me to do the study.
You know what, I didn't mean you
Well, no,
specifically,
I know,
but
no,
would
but-
strategic planning want to try to get this in for the next year? That way it'll set it up for us.
Well, the thing is, we're
sure
making
you're
the
ready.
assumption that there's going to be a study on facilities when we have not yet had meetings and even.
Well, I mean, that's
informed
the
sub-
direction it's gonna go, right? I mean,
Yeah,
everybody
I-
would assume that it's going to be facilities-based, for the most part,
I-
it's gonna be
I would
facilities-based, so.
assume it is. I mean,
And we're talking all the facilities, right?
Right.
I mean, not just
well,
the campus here, we're talking the schools, the
well, especially,
elementaries and stuff.
yes, especially with the issues with the Sandown schools.
I'm asking for two reasons, the budget side, obviously, and this side. If we're really thinking about this and it's hard because we don't have the strategic plan ready to go or whatever, but we know that we're gonna wanna do this study. You know, do we want a budget for that?
My personal opinion is, oh, to put in a,
But then if it fails, then the strategic plan does what?
They gotta wait another year. Which doesn't put them
I
any
think-
further behind than they, I don't mean now,
oh.
than they are
well,
already.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
You
true.
could ask for the money. and
I'm
hopefully
just
this
trying
is
to,
not
obviously, we're
else.
talking out loud, trying to figure it out, right?
You
How we're
gotta
Yeah,
gonna
have
yeah.
contracts to get
do
into
this.
the-
Yeah.
A concern for me that you've got two union contracts.
That's true.
and Then you bump into a union contract and then what?
Right.
And
I don't want that to happen.
I think you're a little early too on the strategic plan, because I think you have to have more answers than questions when you go to sell this thing.
Well, even for the plan, the drawing plans, I couldn't tell you 300 is too high, too low.
I have
It was
no
just
idea.
a number I kind of
Yeah.
picked out of the
Right.
hat, you know what I mean?
No idea.
We were hoping to get kind of some update based on the old plan that was done, the comprehensive one by the
Yep.
architects, but I haven't really seen, I think maybe that's where I pulled that number from, was, but I,
What we spent 10 years ago whenever we did it, right?
well,
8?
well, we did go back and ask that company about updating, and I think we did get some idea of that. I'm not against putting it in here, it's just, it's a hard thing to justify when you have nothing to back it with right now.
But I think it's worth this conversation.
Yeah,
You need to
right.
think through that, and then you gotta look way ahead. If the TSSU contract is up in 2021, and the TTA contract is up in 1920, that all builds on that. You
Right.
gotta-
When's the last day to,
Do a
so-
warrant?
to do a warrant? I know you gave us a list, you don't have to. So I think maybe as we get to that time, that we might
Yeah.
wanna relook at that, because we are gonna have our meetings of the community members, October, November, and
There's time.
there's
Yeah.
time.
No, we have
So-
time.
Finalize it
Yeah.
you have to finalize your warrant by January 29th.
Late January, yeah.
Yeah, I was
Okay,
gonna
so-
say
so,
late January.
I mean,
Okay.
by the beginning of January, we may have a better idea.
Well, hopefully even into December, mid-December.
Right, yeah, once we've done all the
Right.
community meetings and discussions, so we'll just leave it off for now.
Okay. Administrator's report.
Great, thank you. I have a request from Sandown Central. We obviously, they presented to you, and that one of the things that they felt they needed, they were short, is a guidance counselor at that school. Sandown Central doesn't currently have a guidance counselor. So my request would be to create a half-time guidance counselor position at Sandown Central. So that was,
Okay. And is this a,
it would be for somebody to primarily handle special ed, 504 plans, and then obviously be able to service any other guidance counselor issues. I did speak with Susan Rassico, Director of Student Services, and late this afternoon to find out would a half-time person be able to cover the responsibilities at that school, and she indicated that she thought that would, ideally, a full-time person would be great, but they thought they could make a half-time person work. So I wanted to come to you. I didn't want to, it's a new position, so if it's something that you would approve.
and is this, I would assume, because it's special ed, is this a statutory requirement type thing?
It is a requirement. So it would beg the question, there was a timing piece, we covered this obviously with Principal Rolfe in the past. His retirement came after the budget season. We didn't have a council budgeted for this particular season. And in fairness to the staff, they had been asking, and I was trying to find a way to cover it within the existing staff. But here we are 6 weeks into school, and some issues are starting to arise, and they need to have somebody in the building. The plans and those sorts of things are coming up for team meetings and those sorts of things, and they need somebody there to service those.
So you're asking for halftime, this is non-benefited position, or, so this is strictly an hourly?
No, it wouldn't be hourly, it'd be a .5. Now, .5 could be 2.5 days a week or a particular time. I'd have to work that out in terms of TTA, what would be appropriate, and benefits for halftime person would be,
Anything, I believe, under 50% is no benefits.
so 50% and lower was
51%
without
would be-
benefits.
51% would be benefits. I think that's what it is.
There are about, what, about 100 students in that building? 100?
More than that. The number is, I don't have the number off the top of my head, and I know we had this discussion, but I think the number is considerably more than it was a year ago. Right, so what's the number? Now, I don't want to guess and be held to
Well,
a number.
I'm just looking at a comparison to the enrollments at the other elementary schools, in terms of being a halftime position, or, I mean,
Some of those kids are only there half the day,
right,
right? And some are there for the full day.
right,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know why 176 in my head, don't quote me on the number, please. But I know there are significantly more kids there now, and they expect more in January every year. We have that bump every year, so whatever the number is. That being said, if there were 5 kids there that needed a counselor, there are 5,
I'm not, again, I'm just looking at a halftime versus a full-time person, based on what the loads are for a full-time.
Yeah, it sounds like a halftime would work.
504s, I don't know if you've had much experience handling students with 504s, but being the counselor in charge of that is quite a lot of work.
I know,
I'm not a
but
counselor,
I'm,
but I know
but
my
I'm,
counselor friends.
That she's talking about equity, I think, right? Yeah, I would,
Another question is, like, you were proposing a half-time person. Are there people with the proper qualifications and certifications, whatever that is, to do this, that are willing to work half-time?
that question I did ask, and Susan said she thought that she'd be able to find a qualified person that would be willing to work half-time. Sometimes social workers in the area that have gotten guidance counselor credentials, it's a step into the field. Sometimes they may have clients that they work with at the second half of the day, so they'll do this in the morning. In terms of working out what works best for the school, I didn't want to get too far ahead of myself here. If a part-time position was approved, I would ask them what's the best way to service the building.
Dan?
So, how about, what if we make a motion and just, if you can't hire somebody part-time, to come back to us? You know what I mean? That way, if you, because I see Peter's point, I know she said that she could, but for whatever reason she can't, come back and just tell us, So I'll make a motion to approve hiring a part-time guidance counselor.
I'll second.
again, I just want to clarify, so this is a half-time position, or is this a part-time position?
It would be
Because-
considered a .5 FTE.
So it would be a position with benefits, so I
Well,
guess
we're trying to
still
get the
trying to
clarification on the
figure this
exact
out.
benefits with the language.
Because it's a non-budgeted position, so my question is, what is the number? What cost are we looking at here, approximately?
I would say approximately, and again, don't want to be held to a number because it depends on the credentials and the qualifications of the person we
Right.
hire. I would
Just
imagine it would be less than 50.
Yeah, I know, I've done it before. I know there are people.
That doesn't mean just don't times it by 2 and think, what is a $100,000 person that's half-time at less than 50? What's the salary? And if they are eligible for any.
We're pretty sure it's 50%. So,
It's-
so halftime would probably be a benefited position.
Is a
Yeah.
benefit position.
And then,
Less
and then it matters whether or not they need benefits, which is not a question I ask when we hire somebody, as you know. And then it's a matter of, if they do, what plan did they pick? So I don't know what the cost would be. And then you'd say, what's your maximum exposure on this? That's why I say it's less than 50. Yeah, I'd say
So
it's,
the maximum exposure is less than 50 with,
I believe so.
So does a halftime person get half benefits or full benefits?
That's what they're clarifying.
That's-
we were just trying to.
We're trying to go from recollection of other situations too, and I believe that there have been reduced benefit packages for the halftime people in the past. I don't know, I can't quote that, but.
There were some modifications to benefits in the last agreement. That's why I want to make sure we have it correct.
Yes, and I'm not sure you can, I don't know. I'm not sure I don't see it in here without reading through every section, but I will keep looking.
Okay. Well, either way, I think we should pursue the matter, because it's the,
We need to. Just
I'd be interested to see if we actually if they actually can find a person that, with this kind of qualification. Because these people aren't, they've got some degrees.
Yeah.
Some work.
I think it's worth looking into, but
We're trying to do it in the most efficient
Yeah, but I think,
way for the.
I think, and if you, your point, Kim, that basically if there's 400 kids in one school, and there's one counselor, and you only have 120 kids in that school, is that what you,
Well,
a half-time person should be able to handle
right.
one-third the workload?
Yes. Yeah,
think-
I guess that's my point. I mean,
Makes sense.
And I agree, it's just the problem of getting that.
Oh,
person.
yeah,
We
yeah,
can't,
yeah, I'm just, yeah,
right?
yeah,
You
I'm
know.
not, yeah, I'm just understanding the math.
It's a particularly interesting population over there, too.
And just for clarification purposes, I wouldn't ask for a half-time person if I didn't think
Sure, I
they
wouldn't.
could provide the
hope not.
service.
Sure.
Right? I wouldn't come and ask for almost what we need. I mean,
Right,
why ask?
right.
You still wouldn't have what you need.
Right.
So I am confident, and I reassured that confidence through Susan Rassico, that a half-time person would be able to provide this service. And they wouldn't feel like they weren't getting what they needed.
I just have a question. Do you know why, like, over the summer, this wasn't requested? Just clarify
it
again. I know you
wa-
were building up to it.
No, it was.
Yeah.
And we talked, it was a matter of trying to find a way to do it within the existing staffing, and
Oh,
asking
so you were
people to
looking at
drive
it.
over there, and then it was not having somebody in the building, which was a problem, because I was pulling somebody from Sandown North, or I was pulling somebody from somewhere else, and then,
Yeah.
so what I was doing was fixing one problem and creating another, and that's not a really good way to do business.
Okay,
Just a quick question. What's the likelihood that you might come back to us at some point down the road and say, oh, by the way, I need to turn this position into a full-time position?
I would be asking for a full-time right now if I thought I needed that, and then that's why I double-checked. I had my own feelings about what I thought a person could do, looking at the plans, and then I just wanted that reassured to the director that does the 504 plans, and then she talked to Beth Rincon, will a half-time person be able to do this? So I think for this particular year, and without, another 150 kids there next year, which is not going to happen, right, unless we move a grade or something, we should be in good shape.
okay, motion on the floor. Moved and second. All those in favor of hiring part-time position, or giving you authorization to have part-time position?
Kim, so, yeah.
Are you voting for it, Kim, or you?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I'm voting for it.
Okay, unanimous.
And I have to say thank you on behalf of
Yeah.
certainly Principal Marino and certainly Kathy McKechnie and the staff there. It's much needed and very much appreciated. And to Mr. Spiro's point, I wish we were able to take care of this for the opening of school. I apologize to them, but this will be great, so we'll get working on that. Thank you. We have another donation. If you remember, I just want to bring you back to football. Remember, the football boosters purchased what's called a Huddle Assist Package, and it includes an iPad, a tripod, a 30-match package for game footage and highlights and stats and all those sorts of things. Well, the volleyball boosters want to purchase the same system, so they want you to accept a donation of $900 so that they can do that.
Motion to accept that.
Second.
All those in favor?
Great, thank you
All
very
right,
much. In your packets, a student trip to Montreal.
Sorry, can
Oh, sure.
I interrupt here on donations? Don't we have to accept the donation? Is the Danville PTA donating the money for the playground?
They are, but I don't have that information yet. So
We don't
you
know.
will get that and something from Atkinson.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll come in with that, and they'll.
Yeah.
All right.
And I'd like for them to come and
Okay.
maybe see you. This was one of those
Voted
Because it's over
on it.
5,000, it'll require a public hearing.
we'll have 2 public hearings, right?
Okay.
So we'll have to post a public hearing and that sort of thing. In your package, you have a student trip to Montreal. You've seen the presentation in the past. It's excellent. You have all the information. It's a student trip to Montreal, Quebec on May 18th and May 19th. We vetted the program at SLT early this week. We recommend board approval. They'll also be asking for, I believe, the 18th of May as a school day. So you'd be authorizing them to miss one day of school to do this trip.
Make the motion to accept the trip and for them to miss that one day of school.
All those in favor?
Hey, we.
Excellent,
Good.
excellent.
Okay.
Proud to let you know, we've received approval from the New Hampshire Department of Education to use Blizzard bags again this year. The program for the 2017-2018 year will be similar to years past. Obviously, though, working with TTA, looking at the block schedule, what does that mean? So we're working out those details. Really working on teacher discretion, because some people did mean, okay, so it's an A day. Does that mean my class was supposed to be 20 minutes? Does that mean now 40 minutes? Teacher discretion. Teacher knows what needs to be assigned. So they're working that out at the sites, and hopefully through TTA and the administrators at both the middle school and the high school, that'll work. Elementary, they have some templates in terms of standardized blizzard bags, but also allowing some room for some teacher creativity. Right, Jen? We got that right? So we're good. And again, we can use that up to 5 days during the school year. All right, as we're obviously looking at the block schedule, we have to be careful that we don't end up with 5A days or 5B days. There's also some concerns from our AP teachers. So we're working, again, trying to work out all those details at the site before we exercise the blizzard bags. Met with the TSSU and the TTA over the last couple of weeks, and so we brought some concerns, and so we're working out some of those concerns. Part of it, one of them was blizzard bag, another was opening a school in terms of schedules and when do they get their schedules and room assignments. So I really want to work with the administration to make sure that teachers don't leave in June. I'm putting a lot of pressure on the high school. They know their schedules, they know their rooms. Obviously, there's minor changes within, but some of this work was done in August and there was some really last-minute things that I think we just knew a little more proactive so that you have that information well in advance. And so we're going to work probably a little more aggressively through May and June to try to get that. I can't promise that everyone will have their schedule and room assigned, but we're going to do our best to try to get those. Several other minor issues that we're working out, so I think we're in good shape with both of those groups. TSSU, at some point, they said when they felt more comfortable, they would come and give you an update. But they said this was really new in the process, and Lori Hirschenroder, which I should be able to pronounce, being a German. So she, at some point when she's comfortable, she'll let us know when she's ready to come. That's okay with you. TTA, you obviously have you on a regular basis. Again, I can't tell you, there are lots of things that you do for us that have tremendous value, but I have to tell you last night, in terms of the SAU board endorsing the school board goal, the superintendent goals in both districts, which are really our goals, they're not just my goals, they're our district goals. That's tremendous value, and I'm so appreciative of your support, Hampstead support, the SAU support. And those people know, we don't always agree on everything, but to get everybody to agree on the goals was something we shoot for every year, and we haven't had in the last couple of years, but we had it. So I think everybody felt comfortable. A couple minor changes to get people to there, but I thought that was excellent cooperative work, and again, tremendous value and very much appreciated. I certainly appreciate it. Student recognition, we had two students, Samantha Fowler and Tegan Bollier. They were regional winners, the New Hampshire State House Bicentennial Poster Contest, so congratulations, Samantha and Tegan. The art is on display at the State House, so that's pretty excellent. Finally, you talked about it earlier, and I know Principal Woodworth is working on this. We have currently, so parking's an issue, and we talked about it quite a bit. So currently, we have 280 students parking in the school lots. 278 are designated student parking. There's some medical considerations for spots and those sorts of things. We have 238 seniors, 42 juniors in the lots when there was 24 lottery spots, right? So all in the SAU, there are 13 CTE, the Center for Technical Education juniors, that are on the fence lot. They need that because they transport back and forth. And so 102 juniors asked for spots, and we were only able to provide 24. So I think the number would be greater, and the survey that we're asking for, I asked current juniors, if you had a spot, how many of you would drive? I also asked how many other juniors would also get a ride from a classmate in the event. So I know it's a tough,
That's going to be people making their best guess about that.
Yeah, so it's how many of you would not be needing bus transportation? And then I asked them to do the same with the sophomore class. So what would they look like when they were juniors? So in the event, because I think sometimes, and Brian can jump in, if you know you don't have a spot, you may not be as eager to go after your license, but if you thought, well, I know I'll have a parking spot at that school, maybe I'll get my license sooner and that sort of thing. So I know a lot of people get frustrated, and I know Busby has been great in terms of providing parking in addition to what we have here for some of our kids. But we want to work on that, and I think the tennis court parking lot thing, if we can figure that out, that would really be good for our student body, and certainly might be you know, there might be a little spend on the front end, but we might save a lot of money over time, especially with transportation. Right? So, I think that's all I had for you in my administrative report this evening. So, thank you.
Can we ask Brian to jump in on the
Sure.
parking? What are your thoughts from a student perspective?
So last year as a junior, I had a parking spot for I think two of the 3 seasons that the juniors could win the lottery. I do know that there was a good chunk of the junior class that wanted spots, especially myself. It was in the fall that I didn't have one. I definitely would have liked one because I do I do extracurricular activities after school, and it was a lot easier, bringing myself to and from those meetings and such with the spot. So I know that if given the opportunity, I know a lot of students would definitely utilize the spots if they have the license and car and such. So
So if when you didn't have a spot, were you taking the bus or were you driving?
I was driving. My mom's friend actually lives not too far down the road, so I was parking at her house, and it was like a half-mile walk. So
Do you feel could it be a safety issue, like students parking far away and then there's not any sidewalks?
yeah, I know that for me especially, it was a weird. I like walk kind of through the woods and such. But I know from the Busbys a lot that they walk, right on the road. There's no sidewalk there at all. So that is kind of a safety thing as well. We do have the crossing guard in the morning. I know directing traffic and such. So she a lot of times helps make sure the students get across. But in the afternoon, I don't know if she's there all the time. So the safety issue, yeah, definitely could arise.
Thank you.
Want to weigh in on this?
Well, I agree, the safety piece, if you're coming in off of Linebrook and you're coming in, it's moving pretty slow at the same time that the kids are coming through. And the kids do as well as they can, I think, to stay out of the road, but it's something you have to be aware of as a driver coming in. You got kids could be on either side of the road. You have people trying to park in kind of precarious situations, as well as people who are pretty well taken care of in Busby's area. But the problems I have administratively with that is that, okay, it's not on school property, and we're still feeling that we have to respond to issues that can occur in those where kids are during those periods of time. So it becomes a risk in many ways in terms of not just what can happen on the road, but what types of nonsense can happen, where kids are congregating out of sight. So it becomes something that we have to work with the local police, to help with and whatnot. It's really becoming more and more of a problem each year. More and more kids are finding ways to park, and it's not just Busby's. It's many of the neighbors. Some of them making a dime on it, and some of them out of the goodness of their heart, making room for kids who ask, or for relatives or friends, and so that's what we have going on. Whether or not they have a parking spot, we're getting about probably the same number of kids parking somewhere.
How many are parking, they're parking anyway.
Yeah, right,
Driving,
right.
they're parking.
Except for now, if we had it here, we could monitor it. We could, have eyes on it, and it would be safe.
You're still gonna have people parking everywhere, it doesn't matter.
Well, it
Even
won't-
if you blow open this parking lot, there's still gonna be sophomores who have their license, and they're gonna be driving, parking down the street.
Not too many, Dan. And I think I'd rather be dealing with the 10 or 15 or 20 sophomores who are, now we're gonna have many, safe places to park if they're still doing that.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. I do believe if we had 150 spots, we'd use them.
Oh, no, I agree.
know,
I'm just
uh,
saying, I don't think it's ever gonna be stemmed unless you can way more than 150 parking spots, because you got more than that licensed right now that aren't driving, right?
That's why we're gonna do a survey, try to get a handle on it.
Right, I understand, but.
But I do believe that even if you think about event parking, graduation,
yeah.
concerts, game days, I mean,
Fireworks,
we
yeah,
have,
absolutely.
we have insufficient amount of parking,
Yeah.
But I think a lot of high schools have the same issue, and it's really nice to hear how much involved you are in trying to improve it, so.
I really
This is a
appreciate the
common
fact
issue
that
with
this
a
is
lot
the
of- yeah.
topic, because it's, I was talking to one of the budget committee members and said, what would you really like to see us do? Well, that actually has become as important to me as many other things that, I hate to put it at the
Great.
same level as, say, an educational need. I'd love a STEM wing. I'd love
Yeah.
some things to, really bring us to another level academically, but I also want to environment for everybody who comes here. So
And
that
it's-
becomes very important.
And it's tougher without any sidewalks there too.
Without-
Driving down, there's all these
right,
kids coming out from everywhere.
And it would give Ken Blasco more practice for lacrosse in the spring.
Yeah.
They practice in the parking
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
From what I understand, hasn't there been in the past, even before Dr. Metzel's tenure, this has come, hasn't there been plans, do you know of any plans, potential parking lots that were drawn up?
I haven't seen any drawings, no.
Okay.
I mean, there's been a lot of talk about it. You know, I actually
Well,
thought
someone
that
did
if I
contract that down.
were able to
Someone dropped
buy
that
a
on me.
lot on this road, I'd build a garage, and I'd have my retirement all set, you know.
There you go.
There was some discussion about buying land from the Legion at one time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it ever got to anything formal.
Yeah, I think as I,
Figure that it's parking
is-
yet again.
because I know that, I think it was, yeah, Tom Gary sent me some information on the Vic Gary group. And I guess they meet on Thursday nights. Also, there's a group that runs that center. And I just had a thought of, see if we can strike something with them in 100-year lease. Right behind you. Perfect, right there. The grading and everything, it's just, it's a parking lot right there, it's just waiting to happen. And I think, you know, well, I don't know anyone who was on that, anyone of those trustees, but if Tim Blaine could sign a lease, we pay for the improvement, yeah, we get the win. They can use it, obviously, during non-school hours.
Well, anything that you do is a liability, so you have to make sure you have it safe. If you're gonna have it in the evenings, you're gonna have to light it. I mean, there are things
Oh,
you're
but
going to need to do.
but it'd be right behind, right here.
Right.
So, I mean, from what I understand, there's different, I'm sure different people have looked at different
We've seen
fields
the
and
lot
layouts.
lines and stuff like that. I know.
Oh, sure.
I know what's there. It's.
We clearly have and you can see it. Anyone driving down there, you can see there's a parking issue, so it's got to be addressed. And so, yes, it's on, it's right on the radar. Make no mistake about it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Doug.
Any personal report?
No personnel report.
Okay. Committee reports.
So budget, we met, and Sue presented, CIP of the budget, nothing really other than that happened until we start. Our next meeting is when we start listening to all the stakeholders, presenting their budgets to us. Also, facilities, you guys have all in your packets, the committee goals that we established, those are in there, so you guys can have them. That's about it.
When's the next facilities meeting? Is it October 10th? Did I hear that?
That's Tuesday, right?
Yeah, I think that's Tuesday. Why did I think we were meeting on
October 10th, 10:15.
Bingo.
Okay.
I understood.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else?
I know there's a transportation meeting coming up October 12th. I know I'm not on that committee, but I'd like to get permission or whatever to attend. They're gonna be talking about this middle school, high school bus route consolidation.
We talked about that. That's one of my advisory committees. I said, sure.
That's fine.
I mean,
I just
no,
wanna
think
let
it's
the
great.
other
Oh,
members
okay.
know too, that I'm planning to attend that.
Did you have anything, Peter?
I just want to say the policy meeting this evening went rather well, very productive.
Good. Great.
How many, 6 policies are we, for first read, I think? I don't know, is it 6? Yeah.
Too long ago.
Yeah, exactly. That was between 6 and 7, so I can't go back that far. And when is our next strategic plan meeting?
October 14th, I think, at 4 o'clock is our next strategic planning meeting, and we will, Dr. Wilson is working on setting up the days for the 2 community meetings, and also working to find a date for the staff meetings, which hopefully will be well-attended, meaning it's part of the contractual day, maybe, so that we can get a lot of input from the staff. I don't know. You know, part of, not, anyway, so we're trying to get max, I know, that's up to you. I'm just, the committee is hopeful that we can get maximum
Participation.
faculty and staff participation, so I know from my own meetings how that goes. Those, and there will be some talking points that we will have so that they are consistent among all the meetings, so that each one will be essentially done the same way, that Jay Bolt will do those. And from there, once we gather that information and look at it, we're also planning to, we are gonna review the survey results and approve those so that those can be posted. And I think that's pretty much it on that. That's where we stand, so.
Is there any way that that could be matched up with a faculty meeting, a regularly scheduled faculty meeting as opposed to
Well-
some separate event?
Well, that's what we were kinda hoping, but that's up to,
Yeah, we were working that out at the SLT level as to, and we need to talk to TTA about the faculty meetings and what mandatory and who's participating, and so we'll get there. We'll have participation.
right, we just would like that,
Yep.
but I understand the nuances that go around that.
Sue?
Curriculum and assessment met this past week. It was, we had a healthy agenda. We did approve a AP English literature book. Here's a genre I didn't know in literature, ready for it? Post-apocalyptic fiction. I don't know how apocalyptic couldn't be fiction, but anyway, an interesting
Just read the
genre.
news.
I didn't know that one. And the book is called The Road. I've taken an interest in it, read a little bit. It's a deep read, so it'll be interesting to see what seniors in an English class have to say about that. We heard a positive report from the middle school and the high school regarding their extended blocking, and that's going pretty positively, and that was good to hear. We also had a lengthy discussion regarding the elementary school report cards, where they're at a presentation to parent point, and I'm hoping the dates for all those presentations, because they're all over the district, get up on the website. If that hasn't already happened, I hope they do get up. Yeah, because you don't have to go to just if you're a Sandown parent, you don't have to go to the Sandown one. You can go to anyone that fits your schedule. It's just gonna be the same presentation and opportunity to ask questions and see some examples. And we'd like, I think it was decided, we'd love to have the same presentation done to us, so we can hear what's being said, and maybe by then we'll have some feedback from parents. So they've worked pretty hard on this over a number of years, and so they're at the parent, letting you know what they've got, the thoughts. And hopefully it's gonna roll out and be very successful. Did I miss anything about Pete and Campbell both of you?
The only thing is there's still some strands on the elementary school report card that need to be fleshed out more completely.
Right.
Like science.
Like, oh yes, science.
Science.
So it does pay to have 3 people who are science,
It certainly does.
science nerds, on the.
But also, to be fair, social studies has no
Yes.
substrands
They don't
either,
So they're working on that. They haven't, we'll continue to work away on that, so. But it was a very good meeting. It was a little too long. It's a long afternoon, so.
Well, that was, the only reason I think it went long was because of the addition to the agenda at the last minute there.
Yeah.
But that was useful.
Yeah. And then, wellness was supposed to meet today. I canceled the meeting because we did not have a second school board rep. It's okay, we'll meet next month, and we didn't have anything that was so awful that we needed to meet today, so I canceled the meeting, rather short notice, but I let people know. And CIP's frozen, so.
That's it. Okey-doke. Very good, thanks. Reports of the school board. Anything?
Just,
Let's go around, let's go right around.
so, all of the sports teams during this month, right, Cancer Awareness Month, they have their, different spin on it for certain home games and stuff, so I've attended quite a few of them this month, and they do a really good job, so, raising money for cancer awareness.
Play for the cure.
Play for the kid. Yep.
I'm good. This morning, I attended Mr. Pedersen's Project Lead the Way and Computer Science, Jean Marie, Industry Advisory Committee. It was a good group. They get a group of people from industry to come 2 or 3 times a year, kind of talk about their needs versus our STEM offerings. In particular, it's a requirement to be certified for project lead the way that you have this committee. And it was good. 2 of the seniors presented the design projects that they want to work on this year. One's right up your alley, Brian. Seriously, he wants to work on protecting a home from flooding with some kind of system. It's just the beginning.
You suggesting for construction homes have flooding problems?
Well, no, I did, but it was interesting. It was something that could come up out of the ground, or something that could help protect, a system to help protect a home from flooding from hurricanes. It was quite interesting.
All right.
And it's good, personally, I think it's great to see people from industry coming out to talk about their needs and interacting with our staff. It's just all good stuff. And I made the comment about Jean Marie there, because Jean Marie Ward is on this committee from Fidelity, and she's a computer science person, and anytime anybody inadvertently just mentioned engineering, she would chime in with, and computer science, as though computer science is an engineering, which it is. But it was very healthy. We had people from Raytheon there. Schneider Electric is normally represented, but they weren't there. So there's some large players in the area. Fidelity.
I've heard of them. Yeah.
You've heard of them. So good stuff.
Okay.
Pollard School had, last week, a staff day where they all dressed up as superheroes as a surprise. So all the adults dressed up as, and some of them were very unique costuming, and surprised the kids with a feel-good day. Was just a great feeling of we're with it, and we're together, and who was your superhero, and there was a superhero nurse, and there was super teachers, and there was super Batman, and it was a really good day, and the kids were just big smiles. Talk about making that connection, that engagement piece. There were smiles, everybody on the way in and way out. They were so excited to see their teachers and the staff all dressed up. So I think that was a good day.
Awesome. Okey doke. Got some minutes here from the September 21st meeting. Get these approved.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Want to take a minute and go through these here? We vote.
I do have one question on page 1 down at the bottom. There's the motion, and then it's a 611 on the vote, but I think there were 9 people there.
What page?
Late. I think that Stephanie was
Oh,
not there
Stephanie
for
was
that.
late. Okay, okay.
Yeah. Shouldn't have entered the meeting yet.
Okay.
I try to put the times in at the attendance at top so you can kind of get an idea,
see
and then
that.
I include them when they enter.
You just wanted to see if you were paying attention, I think.
Just noticed that they weren't.
I made mistakes.
Do we want to talk about the SAU lease at all?
Well, that's probably not a bad idea. Let's get through this. So, any other comments on the minutes? Hearing none, I will call, it's already motion made, seconded. All those in favor accept the minutes. Unanimous. Okay, yes, I forgot about the SAU lease. Yes, I believe we have a situation with the SAU lease.
You want me to?
Please.
Just quickly, the SAU lease, we had it looked at by legal, and we don't believe what we were proposing is something that we can do. So they'll come back with a recommendation to you at some point. They believe that the terms that you had 5-year lease with a 1-year notice, I believe was what we tried to do. They said was something you can't do. I don't know why, right? Somebody else in real estate or something may know why the 90-day renewal doesn't work, or whatever it is, but there's something wrong with the lease that, so they're gonna clean that up and send a recommendation to you to look at it again. That's why it wasn't on the SAU agenda last night.
That's fine.
So, if it is cleaned up, maybe it'll be on the SAU agenda, but it has to come to you first.
Right.
So it won't be on it will not be on the October 18th, so maybe it will be ready for the November 15th, SAU meeting. I hope. So we'll keep chasing that, but I'm sure that people wonder what happened to that. That's what happened.
Okay. Thanks. Okay. We're good. Some other business here. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
You guys gonna get the second half?
You'll be gone.
Afraid to look at the second half. I remember what happened a few weeks ago, and I want to look at the second half.